I guess for the sake of intro,
Well, let's just wait a minute and be sure Pam's here
okay.
and see who else is on. I'll just open this up and then,
Jackie and.
well, you know, when we planned this, when they asked, I said, I'm leaving that up to staff to bring who they think we need to have at this discussion.
So I know that, I believe Jack, if my memory serves me correctly, Jack is at a conference. And Leroy may be there as well.
Well, Jack is at the conference, that's.
But they did, we did.
Good morning, Eric.
Oh, there's Leroy.
Yeah, I'm here. Jackie, yeah, she's at a conference. She's planning to call in.
Okay.
So,
Planning to call in.
yeah, she's planning to call in.
Saying if they're not involved, we doing this, we just spinning our wheels now.
Well, I don't think so. I don't think so.
We did, no, we
But
did, yeah, we did have
can't
a,
approve nothing that
Well,
the
we're not.
staff is not going along with. Well, that's another issue.
Well, that's why they're tuned in, and so I'll count on them coming into the discussion as we need to. And since this is a work session and not a formal meeting, I don't think we need to call a roll, except I'd be interested in who else is in on the conversation on virtually. So, well, Pam usually does that, but can I?
Yeah, she'll do. Yes, she probably should do that,
Okay,
because I still got another purpose. If we doing this and we have 2 city councilmen, why aren't they here?
well, that's why I'm
You know?
going to check to see who's on with us
Just
virtually.
spinning our wheels if they not here.
Pam, we're ready to start, but we just need to know who else is on the call, who's on the call, so, okay.
Yes, this is Tina Herbert, and I am here.
Herbert's on there now.
All right, so, okay, I'm Lil Moon, I chair the service committee, and as I said, this is a work session, not a formal meeting, and so we have people both on the service committee and others who have an interest in something to contribute to the work we'll be doing today. And our task really is to work through the packet of proposed changes that would be a part of the Lucius and River super stop when that's complete, and get a full understanding and prepare us to make a recommendation to the board about any of these changes going out for public comment. So this is not the only opportunity, but all right. And so I hear Ms. Herbert on, Mr. Furgess and Ms. Gleaton are here in the room with me. Are there any other committee members on the call?
No, ma'am.
No. And anyone else?
Mr. DesChamps, Blake Gibbons, Tiffany Turner.
Join the meeting.
Somebody else just joined. Let's see.
And Durst Walters here with the Midlands Transit Riders. And then staff, we have Mr. Cooksey and
Olga, Graziano.
Olga. Okay.
We have dispatcher and 2 operators with us as well.
2 operators.
And our dispatcher.
And tell me your names.
Ricky Hamilton.
Rick.
Yes, ma'am.
Lynn Burleson.
Lynn.
Bill Patterson.
Phil, we're glad to have you here with us.
Long time drivers.
Look, Carol.
All right, so now we turn Eric loose, and we were just talking, I was just talking to him out ahead, because he's going to start us out, just give us a little frame to work with, and then we'll work through the packet that we were sent route by route, and you'll be able to see it on the screen as well as in your packet. And as we deal with each route, we'll be open to questions and discussion of that. And I'm hoping what that will do is let us really pay attention to that piece one at a time. And so I'm going to try not to get distracted and go to other subjects. And I'm counting on the rest of us to do that too. So you just get us started, Eric.
Yes, first off, again, I'm happy that we were able to coordinate this. It's a very great feeling to see operators in the room. Feel free to provide feedback as well. But what I did, I sent over like the raw files of everything that has been planned out, discussed internally, and vetted through. And what I did, I met with staff last week. And so we agreed that we're going to, we can discuss some different strategies as well. We'll talk about that today. But also we agreed to make sure that we had the most thorough presentation that we possibly can have to make sure it makes it easier for us to provide feedback as we're going through the presentation. But what we have here is just a basic site plan review. We have 16 bus bays. We have 8 16-foot shelters. We have a parking, a driving, a bus training area here. We also have 2 entryways. We have sidewalk infrastructure. We extended the turning lane, dedicated turning lane for the operators as well. Outside of that, that's the gist of it. Right now, we're at 98% physically complete. We are 96% financially complete with the project. The last pieces of the project is to add the greenway, so all the landscaping and things of that nature. And we did find a way to get trees added to the site as well. So that will be the final stages of it. And if you had a chance to drive by and see the site, it looks really good at this point. I think this is the one of the more updated images of it. But that's that. All right, here we have 16 service routes affected, 4 low community impact, 7 fall in the category of medium community impact, 5 fall in the category of high community impact. And how we classify those. So if it's low, 9 times out of 10, it has minor change. It still has access to downtown. You won't see too much of an effect there on the low side. They may have to walk maybe a block or so to get to their key destination, but overall, you won't see too much of an impact from a service implementation standpoint. The medium community impact, these are normally the routes that they tend, and I want to make sure I note this, low, medium, high doesn't necessarily mean that it's a negative impact. It could be a positive impact. But when we're looking at medium, what I've seen as a trend is that it tends to extend the route. So you still will have access to downtown. Maybe the route is a little adjusted in the downtown area, but maybe you have to walk a block or 2, but you still have more access because you're going towards River Drive, Lucius Road, that area. Now, high community impact, that means you no longer have access to downtown. You may have to do a transfer in order to get downtown if that's your ending location. So those are the type of things that we're looking at in the presentation today, and it will be easily spelled out as we go to each individual route. We have 15 service routes unaffected by Lucius and River, and normally these routes, they probably have no access to downtown as a whole. As you can see, Route 32, 45, 47, 55, so on and so forth. Hopefully everyone can see it well. If not, I can always spell it out for you. But and all the way down to 83L, it's just a few here. But we also have other routes that were omitted, but also for the sake of statistics, we included in the numbers. And those are Route 2, Route 3, Route 7, U of SC routes is not included in this survey in this case. And that is about it. So everything else is included or accounted for in some type of way in the presentation today. 75% of the service routes will continue to serve downtown. So that's a huge positive. Comet Central will have a 50% reduction in bus traffic, and Lucius and River will have a 23% increase in bus traffic.
Can I ask you something? Why don't we have that printed out?
We can have.
Print them out for you.
These first couple of slides, the site and
I
this.
want the entire package
Yeah.
that you presented.
Yes, we can have it.
Okay.
All right, starting off with Route 6, we can see here that right there at the top, and just kind of take you through the screen that way.
Let me stop you 1 minute, because one thing in my packet before that, page 3 is the kind of looking at the full picture of the downtown and Forest Acres. And the only note I made to myself on that page was that, as I went through the others, I realized that, how many super stops we have. You know, some are on this page, but some are beyond that. And I frankly, that was a surprise to me. So this is one of, how many super stops do we now have? Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm counting 9 at this point.
I know,
That's
well, I
about
think
right.
we have a little bit more than that, but yeah, we have, because we have another one, it's Harbor.
Yeah, I thought it was about 8,
Yeah, it's about,
8 or 9.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, 8 or 9, 8 or 9. But yeah, this is just included in that pile of super stops that we have.
Okay, and would you take just a minute to refresh us on what qualifies something as a super stop?
Oh, absolutely. So anytime there's a super stop, that means that this is a major node where most buses will meet. It's not always a post, and the difference is a post is when a bus arrives. Normally it's scheduled, like
It doesn't necessarily have a pulse.
it doesn't necessarily mean it has to have a post. But this is normally where multiple buses meet as a central location. Normally there is a supportive space to allow multiple buses to be able to park and maybe lay over or something along those lines.
Now, before you move on from that, I thought I heard from the consultant that this pulse thing was out. Are we trying to do a pulse that the consultant said wouldn't work at Lucius Road?
No, well, yeah, the pulse in this case wouldn't work at Lucius Road.
So
In
where
this
we
case.
pulsing?
So I was just describing what the difference between the different super stops, but it doesn't, just because it's a super stop doesn't mean that it has to have a pulse.
So as we go through, will you just tell us in anything that we're dealing with in a route, whether there's a pulsing involved? So, and so we can look at the specifics, Mr.
But you
Furgess?
still haven't, you're going back to pulsing.
No,
Are we pulsing anywhere in the future plans?
At this time, we don't have any set plans of whether or not we're gonna pulse.
So, okay, I can get pulse out of my head.
So now, just for clarity, pulse would be ideal in some of these major nodes because it's shorter waiting periods for the riders. So it makes it easier transfer to be able to get from somewhere like Lucius Road or Harbison and just to be able to get to your next destination. So our goal is to make the routes, the timing of the routes as close as possible so you can easily transfer.
so in other words, so you'd be looking stop by stop in terms of where pulsing would serve the passengers better or not?
As of right now, we haven't gotten to the level of developing the actual service schedule.
Okay,
So once we get to the scheduling part, that's when we would send it to RTP Dev. We'll work together figuring out how we want to go about it and what we best see fit. There's a lot of factors that play a role. The number of buses we have, the timing of the day that the route needs to operate, the population size that needs to be served, bus size, all of those things play a role. So once we get to that point, that's when once we get the blessing of, hey, I think this looks good, then we can move forward to go ahead and scheduling it out and making sure we pass it along and send it off to the operator.
okay, now before I let go of this too, tell me what, some things are designated as transfer points and some are designated as super stops. So what's the difference in that?
So a super stop, normally you can hold multiple buses and they can be one and the same, to be honest with you.
So a super stop is a transfer
It
point,
is a transfer.
but every transfer point is not a super stop.
Right,
So you may just connect with one other route at a transfer point.
that is correct. That
Okay,
is correct.
okay.
And
With
so-
multiple routes.
And you may see something similar to, like, I'm trying to think. I can't think of a route on top of my head, but there are some that it's only a couple of buses that serve that area. And so you may want to just hop off and hop on to the next bus in order to get in. So it's a similar thing, but super stops, normally there's a wider radius, a larger radius of how many buses actually serve that location to make it a more seamless experience for the drivers.
I have a question.
Yes.
Will 501 still go out to the mall, Columbia Mall?
Yes, yes. And we're gonna get to
So we're gonna do route by route. We're not,
Okay.
so we'll
All right.
hold on to that 501 because we'll get to that.
Yeah, that's sharp.
Shop Road, yeah.
All right, well,
All right.
all right, thank you. Now now I'm at Eau Claire. We all on that page?
And what we did, just so you can follow, we put them in numerical order. So it might be a little different from what you have in front, but you know, if you turn the pages and kind of look around, you probably be able to see the same thing. We're gonna get you a packet as well. But Route 6, again, for every single route that we go through today, on the right-hand side at the very top, you will see Assembly and Blandon, Hardin and Taylor, River and Lucius, and also Cummins Central, which is also Laura Sumter. So the nomenclature, you know, may differ, but it's the same location.
So this one, that tells us that this Eau Claire route goes through all of those points?
Yes.
Takes you to all of those points?
The one that is being checked
All
off.
of them. Oh, the,
So in this case, River and Lucius is being checked off. So this is the location that it now serves. The black line that we see here is what the original route that goes downtown today. So it would no longer extend to this downtown area, which is Lucius and River. It would now stop at, no, I'm sorry, it would no longer extend to Cummins Central, but it would stop at Lucius and River.
so that means at that point, somebody who's riding this route to downtown would transfer
That is correct.
at Lucius Road.
That is correct.
Mr. Harris,
Yes, sir.
why don't we just take a break until everybody here can get this printout
Oh, I'm
that
sorry.
you and Lil were talking about?
Absolutely.
Because I don't have a clue, and I don't think anybody else in this room have a clue to what y'all talking
All right, this was the packet that was mailed to us, and the only reason I have is I printed it
about.
out.
You have to
Yeah,
tell
no,
us.
no. She wasn't referring to the presentation. We're gonna make sure we reach you.
You had a question?
Yeah, I was trying to.
Yes, on her question, about the transport stop, like, that'd be like 101 and 88, you see what I'm saying, they
Yeah.
connect. The super stops would be like 77, 75, 701, that'd be like Forest Drive, those the big stops, you have 4 and 5 buses come.
Okay.
That's the difference from your transport and the super stops.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And just as we're bringing up the stuff there, I just explaining the layout. So again, at the top, you would see, and whenever you get the printout, it would be the same thing. At the top, you would see the list of the concern or the subject of matter of today, the different super stops that we are discussing. So Assembly and Blandon, the connection points in this case. Well, super stop. Assembly and Blandon, Hardin and Taylor, River and Lucius, and Cummins Central. And then over here, and anything that's checked off means that the new proposed location will stop at those various locations. So in this case, Route 6 will stop at River and Lucius because there's a check next to it. Now, just taking you through on this side where it says extended service. Right now it says none. Anything that's highlighted in green is what will probably be something that we need to discuss, or it would be affected as a result of this route. So you will see increased frequency on this route. And the reason being for increased frequency, because this is a shorter route, you have a little bit more time to run at a higher frequency, or you may experience more layover, depending on how, again, we schedule it out. But there is opportunities for improvement in terms of how much frequency we have in this area. But obviously,
Eric, that route right now is what, every 30 minutes?
yes,
Okay. So the potential would be for a shorter, a more frequent route than 30. Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
And so here, we also would see service reduction. So you're gonna see the same profile on each route. For service reduction, we know it's gonna be a reduction because this is the new route in purple here. The reduction would be from here all the way to here, which would be from the downtown Cummins Central area to Lucius and River. So that's what a reduction would be. And then the community impact is high. It's high because you no longer have access to downtown. You have to transfer in order to get access. So, but it would be the same thing for each route that we go through. What we're looking for is the green. That will let you know the major things that, major components that may affect the route.
Excuse me, if you don't mind, if I can just have the 3 operators, can you guys just sit up front here?
Yes.
So you can see better, and I want you involved in this conversation when
Yeah.
things come up. I know it's probably a little hard to see back there, especially with the glare.
I'm sorry, I didn't notice that.
No.
We don't have any back rows here.
Yeah, just have a seat up front
And is it okay to ask a question now?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so, and I'm printing out the materials here so I can see them as well. But so with the high impact, will it increase the amount of time that someone on this particular route would need to go to the same location if it were downtown.
That is correct.
So what kind of estimate of increased time would you have
Yeah.
there?
We would have to test the route. So that goes back into the operation side of things. But what we know is just based on the route, you can see where it cuts off at River and Lucius, and it no longer goes to downtown area. But I can estimate that maybe that adds another, maybe the operator's probably know right off the top of your head, maybe 10, 15 minutes. So
Probably about 30 minutes to it.
Well, now the operators and the riders tell us 10 to 15 minutes.
Operators and the riders, you know, tell us, we tell them what they do.
No, I'm saying they said, when they estimate what that impact would be, the time it takes to do the transfer. That's what you're saying.
yeah,
It would probably add 10 to 15.
there's, yeah, to the service route. So you're cutting off 15 minutes from that route. So you could reallocate that 15 minutes to add more frequency to Route 6. Or you can add it to the layover where the operators are able to kind of just sit and rest at Lucius and River a little while longer, just to have a break time. So many ways that we can kind of go about it. But at this point, we do know that there would be about, again, based on what they're saying, it's about 15 minutes of a reduction.
Let me ask you
Yes,
something.
sir.
If a person would catch 6 and was coming downtown, now they're coming to Lucius Road to catch another bus, and you tell me that can be done in 10 minutes?
No,
All right, well, that's what I would say. It's gonna be more than that.
well, it's the only time will tell is based on how we schedule it out. So it's all about the schedule. In this case, what we're saying is that this route from Lucius and River to downtown, we're losing 15 minutes because we no longer would go downtown. So now this route could go up and down Main Street and wherever else it needs to go at a faster rate if it wanted to, because it no longer has to go here. So this bus could go here and turn right back around and do it again. But before, the bus was coming all the way down and then going all the way down here. But in this case, it no longer would do that.
But I hope you put in any of your changes, when a person catch that bus, that's where they're going downtown. I follow me? You're not catching folks that live in that area aren't catching a bus to go to Lucius Road. You know,
They're going from there, but
They're
not,
going
but not
downtown.
necessarily. What I was,
They can still transfer.
if they could go from there across.
Yes, because there's still routes that serve Lucius River and downtown. So they still will have access to downtown. It's
I
just,
understand that.
yeah.
I understand that.
so this is just when, like we were saying before, how we classify high is normally there's a situation where you no longer have access, immediate or a straight line access to downtown. So in this case, they would have to transfer. The waiting period, how long that would take, that's when we build out the schedule, and we'll know that as we start to move forward with the planning process. Right now, what we have is just a routing alignments.
This is Tina. I will say that I think it's hard for me to give the go ahead or say that I approve of something when I don't have a clear understanding of how long it'll be. And I do get that what you're saying, that you have to route it out. But I mean, you could route it out, and a particular route that someone is taking is going to take 45 minutes more. That's a whole lot. And all I'm saying is, if a single person has an increased route of 45 minutes, that would be hard. And then y'all may tell me different. Y'all may say, Tina, that's your only choice, and that's fine. But I think if some of these ones that are, particularly if we know that they're going to have a high impact and the time is going to be a substantial increase, I would want to see some of those numbers. And we don't have to see them today, but I mean, just a couple of routes, if y'all could work through them.
Understood. In this case here, we can assume that, again, when a rider arrives at Lucius and River to transfer, it may take them about 10 to 15 minutes at most, because we still have several routes that would still go to Lucius and River in this plan. So they would still have access. It just adds 10 to 15 minutes to their route to get 15 or so minutes downtown. So to that case in point, we may be looking at around about 30 minutes or so added to your trip that you would not ordinarily have to, you would not have to ordinarily have to experience.
Okay.
Where did the 30 minutes come from?
So because you have to transfer, which means that if my bus is not ready to go the moment I get to Lucius and River, that means that I have to wait a little. I'm just adding 10 minutes or so to that waiting period. And once I hop on the next bus, then I will have access to go downtown to the bus that's going downtown. But what we understand, and based on, again, what the operators are saying, from Lucius and River to Comet Central is about a 15-minute trip. So if that's the case and I'm waiting for 10 minutes, that means it's adding about 25 to 30 minutes to my experience.
But now, here's what help me with this, because if I didn't stop there, I'd still have that 15 minutes to get to downtown.
So it's more of a 5-minute difference in this case.
Well, no, I was thinking so the difference in the length of time it would take me to get from where I started at the top of this route to that would be the time it took me to transfer.
The
That'd
wait
be the
time.
only
Right,
added.
it's not much of a difference. in
It's
that
the
case.
wait time.
The wait time.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
Right,
it's still
it'd be-
taking that
it'd
same
be-
it's the
time.
wait time.
And
Correct.
so as you think about the scheduling of routes, and I'm hearing what you're saying, Ms. Herbert, is that where, when you're looking at the community impact being that a transfer is necessary, and what would be an estimated, well, would that always be the same, that the estimated transfer time would be 10 to 15 minutes? Is that
That's
on
fair.
on almost every route?
That's pretty fair. We don't normally stagger them out so much. You're waiting at the bus stop for longer than 10 to 15 minutes. And then the closer they are together, the more of a pulse it looks like and feels like. But yeah, it's not much of a difference when you start to look at transfer points. So even in this case, for all of the routes, you can assume that, again, your waiting period would be somewhere between 10 and
That
15
you'd
minutes.
be adding that amount of time to your normal trip.
That is correct.
Okay, because depending on where you're going from this stop at that River and Lucius, I mean, your trip, I mean, it depends on where you're going, how long your whole trip is gonna be. I mean, if I'm gonna get off at River Drive and go somewhere to one of the Broad River Road, for example, that would be different. If I'm trying to connect with one that goes across toward the Forest Acres, that would be a whole different route and the time that it would take than for me to go just downtown.
That is correct. That is correct.
I have a question.
Yes.
My concern is our seniors get on the bus all the time. I ride 12, right down the street from me, right down Bonneville Road. And they worry about catching that bus. Those people have doctor's appointments and things like that. And that is really my main concern, because I have doctor's appointment. And when I catch 12 there on Bonneville Road, will I be able to go downtown then, or do I have to come out here to Lucius Road?
Route 12.
Yes.
Well, now, don't skip to another route now, because that's where we'll get mixed up. Can you just hold that 12 question? till
I
we
got
get to
all
route
night.
12? Well,
Take a point.
but I mean, 12, route 12 is in our packet, so I don't want to lose that. But if we could talk,
I ain't
when
gonna
we're
lose it,
looking at
that's why I
that map,
ride it.
that'll help us. Okay.
I go right back to what I've always said. If a person is catching a bus and going downtown without a transfer now, you give them a transfer, you've accomplished absolutely nothing as far as transportation is concerned. Because you've lost a passenger and you've lost a voter for the penny.
Well, his way.
And Route 6, let me talk something.
Sure, I'm sorry. I thought you had finished. I'm sorry.
With Route 6, some of the preliminary work to get all those routes from the area that go downtown, the 101 to 801, put those in going to Comet Central. Use 6 and 12 to pick up from the 6 to pick up from Lucius Road and go downtown. And 12 would go downtown. Now, what I'm saying is the wheel being reinvented. Now, this thing has been running for 137 years now. So the only thing that's changed, seeing it was never more than, on any route, was more than a 15-minute wait when routes were hitting downtown at different times. No complaint about bus traffic or none of that. So when you go back and reinvent the wheel, and I'm looking, I don't know. I think we need to be careful, because whatever we discuss in here is it going to the public. So it ain't like it ain't going to the public. Everybody in 6 that catch 6 and go downtown live in that area gonna be in an uproar, because how many years, 100 and something years, ever since they had six, they could go straight downtown. Now they're going to Lucius Road. They have no connection to Lucius Road. See,
Yeah, so they would still, and again, this is only one route. So there will be connection points. There will be access to downtown. It's just if your goal was to get on Route 6 to get downtown, you no longer have that direct access, but you'll be able to transfer to get to downtown.
but can you go and catch a bus in that area and go straight downtown?
That is correct. Yes, you
What
can.
bus would you be able to catch in that area?
And when we get to, I don't know the route, because there are
I mean,
several,
it is,
there would,
as long, yeah, if there's a bus in that area that you can catch and go straight downtown.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
I think it's 101.
All right.
So, okay,
So now looking at Fairfield. In this case, again, this route,
y'all have your packet now?
yes,
They have it, all right, okay.
Blake, thank you so much.
So we're on Route 11, or C7's the next one in my packet. Oh, that's the increment weather show.
Check the other packet, the one that has
The previous
on top, the presentation.
Yeah.
This is the one I printed out from home, okay.
So here, Route 11, again, we see River and Lucius being checked off here. So this is the primary location. You will see some routes that have access to Assembly, Langdon, Hardin and Taylor, River and Lucius, Common Central. So some of them have multiple, but in this case, Fairfield, Route 11 would now be going directly to River and Lucius and then circling back around and on this regular route pattern. What we see is that here, what's being cut off is the downtown access. And again, the community impact would be high, but we would still have access to downtown. So it's not as much of a negative. It's just one of those things that is going to take some, getting used to. It's going to adjust the rider experience. Also, you see highlighted there in green, the service reduction. So again, this route would no longer serve downtown. So you see just the profile on the left-hand side.
So this route will be looping the hospital also?
Yes, in this plan.
That's outbound and inbound?
Just outbound,
Just
outbound.
outbound?
just outbound.
And then it's gonna go over here to Lucius, drop off, and it's gonna cut out the Hardin Street extension and the whole front of the hospital.
Yep.
How many buses gonna be at the new stop here at one time?
Mhm.
So we know for a fact we have not occupied all 16 bus bays. We should see about, I think it's maybe 10, about 10 to 12 buses.
Certain buses gonna be at certain shelters?
Yes, we would have to come up with a bus bay allocation. Right now, we almost kind of spread them all the way out because we got more than enough space.
Okay, one more question. Facilities, restrooms.
So it was in the original plan.
Okay.
It was an original plan. We had to cut down on budget. So we're working on some alternative plans to see how we can accommodate, the matter. Because there's also a maintenance piece of it that we have to make sure that someone's going to clean it and maintain it, whole 9 yards. So, but it's still on the books to be discussed and we're working through it.
So how many of our super stops now have restroom facilities?
Not all of them. Honestly, only one. Common Central.
Common Central's the only place that has.
But they have access to one.
So
They
what,
can get.
Stores of the community business.
Yep, so they have businesses that they probably can walk into, maybe a gas station or
This one
something.
we don't.
Yeah, on this one, there's not immediate access. So that's why it's more of a conversation.
I got you.
so we're operating over here before facilities?
Oh,
We are working through the plans of trying to figure it out. Yeah, we haven't gotten that far to, we do know, and we're gonna talk about timeline as well towards the end of the presentation, but we're working through it. That's the best thing. We've had a lot of discussion about it. It's more about cost.
That's a good question. Thank you.
So Route 12, this route here goes to Assembly and Blandon, Hardin, Taylor, River and Lucius, and also Laura Sumter, which is Common Central. As you can see that it goes downtown, you can see the original route pattern, but it still has access to Laura Sumter, but also Assembly and Blandon, and then it goes all the way up to River and Lucius. So
Why are you there on 12?
Yes.
Why would you take 12 to Lucius Road?
In this case, it'll be the extended service to serve River and Lucius. So you needed to get to some of those access points on River Drive or
I
somewhere.
mean, if you're using Lucius Road to get to Common Central, that's it. Whatever's leaving Lucius Road to get there takes care of that. I mean, I don't see what you pick up by extending 12 to Lucius, because it's going through areas that are not high ridership to get to Lucius Road.
So it's just the direct access. We can always adjust the routes. These are just the proposed routes, but as of right now, it just extends the access. So sometimes we do have ridership along this particular corridor. And also it's going down the back road here on Park Street to get to Lucius and River. So you do have a housing, a community of people that we serve in that area. So we do have access to that area with this route, but if we cut it short, it won't be direct access. So we just try to add as much as we
One
can.
other question on it. Why does it go to Common Central and to Laurel and Assembly? I mean, Blanding and Assembly.
That's just a routing alignment. That's just the way that it's set
That's
up.
the way it goes.
So let me be sure. The question, if you start out and this is your route, Ms. Cleaton, so let's talk about, you get your question in. But if you start out out like Colony Apartments out at that super stop, and anywhere along that route where you're trying to get downtown, nothing requires you to go to Lucius Road to get downtown. You just go the way you've always gone.
Yeah, pretty much this route follows its natural pattern. It's just subtle adjustments, that's why it's medium impact. But regardless of anything, you still would have direct access to the same access points. So you would see almost no change in this route.
So does that help with your question, Mr. Furgess, that people getting on it wouldn't have to go to Lucius Road to get downtown?
No, it dawned on me. Maybe the folks that catch 12 want to catch those buses that anchoring at Lucius Road. So that was the reason.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then I have a question. And then you were talking about housing over there. I know we had some discussion about making sure that we had stops near Columbia Housing Authority places.
Saxon Home and on down there.
Yeah, and it's one up Hammond Village, I think
Hammond Village.
is up here.
So this route, to your point, it's the same route pattern. If anything, it's extended to give you further access to get to more places. And in this case, again, medium impact, it doesn't necessarily again mean negative. In this case, it's a positive.
I ride it, I'll know.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, did that cover your question?
I think so.
Thank you.
Route 21, Rosewood. This route here is low impact, not much change at all. If anything, you may see an increased, I don't even want to call it increased headway, but you just got lower congestion on this route because it's going down, I believe it's Laurel Street. No, Sumter. It's going down Sumter and it just loops around the transit center there. It has access to Assembly and Blandon, and also Common Central. So again, low impact, not too many issues here.
I have one question on that.
Yes, sir.
How does it get to Hardin and Taylor?
It does not go to Hardin.
Oh, see, well, somebody put some numbers in that super stop. That Hardin and Taylor got 21 and they probably meant 22.
Maybe so, yeah. Probably.
22 every day?
Yes, every day.
Brings up, I have a question.
Yes.
These routes are 7 days a week.
Not all the routes, but most of them are 7 days a week.
So your 22 gonna be running 7 days a week now? It runs 6 now.
You only run 6 right now.
It does not operate on Sundays with 22.
Oh, now, wait a minute, I'm still on 21, but we move into 22 or,
Oh, yeah, we're moving into 22.
okay.
So Eric, question, I guess piggybacking onto them, are there any routes that are an extra day or are we taking a day away?
No, no,
So
no.
none of that has changed?
Yeah, none of that is changing the,
Okay.
the normal schedule that we have. That if anything, that's another sequence of just looking at overall ridership and seeing what we need.
So right now, with any of these changes, the number of days services available wouldn't change.
That wouldn't change. There'll be no impact. All right, Route 22, Hardin Street, no change. Currently, the way that it's scheduled out is the same, well, designed is the same way that it will be, and it connects to Hardin and Taylor. Route 42, Millwood Avenue. It connects to Assembly and Blandon, Hardin and Taylor, and Comet Central. There's no change in this route as well.
This one doesn't go to Lucas.
It does not go to Lucius. Or originally. It's a medium impact, not much of a change here. If anything, it stands from Laura Sumpter to Bull Street, so it's just a bigger radius, a larger radius that is coming down, just to improve more connectivity, but overall, you won't see much change with 44X.
All right, and then
Yes, sir.
on these super stops, maybe somebody need to go back and correct that. See, you got 44X at Hardin and Taylor.
It is at Hardin and Taylor. It's at Assembly and Blandon, Hardin and Taylor, and Comet Central.
Doesn't go to Hardin and Taylor now.
No, it does. It's being extended with the route plan. So that's a part of the medium impact, but it's more of a positive because it's able to connect to Hardin Street in this case. Shop Road,
Hold on a minute.
okay?
Hey, you bet.
No, feel
All right,
free.
that's your 45. What is 45? And Hardin and Taylor.
That's a Hazelwood route.
But it's not in the folder.
Well, Route 45 is more of a, it's the,
Where does it come from?
It connects with the Route 401 at the super stop, 401 from downtown, changes into the 45 at Croston Road, and it goes on out up by the VA, up towards the Garners Ferry Road Walmart, and then over by Bojangles, further up on Garners Ferry Road, and it connects with the 44 sometimes and the 47 in the mornings and afternoons.
Where does the 45 go now?
that's where it
That's
goes, but
exactly how it runs.
there's no change.
How does it get to Hardin and Taylor? 45.
It starts at Croston Road, once the 401 leaves from downtown, it gets to Croston, it changes over to the 45, and it goes straight up Garners Ferry over to Walmart on Garners Ferry at Hazelwood, and then it circles around Leesburg, it goes part of Leesburg Road, and then Fairmont, and comes back out where the Bojangles is on Garners Ferry, and then it comes back down.
But still, how did it get to Hardin and Taylor?
Does 45 turn into the 401?
The 401 changes into the 45.
Right.
That's the inner line
So it's an
route.
inner line.
It's an inner line.
It's basically one route, but it inner line.
And we do hit the 401.
The
But in this
401
case, 45 is not
the 401 changes to the 45
correct.
out there at the old Kmart out there.
Okay.
Oh,
But
okay.
and still, how does it get to Hardin and Taylor?
It's 401 when it leaves
401
town,
leaves
and it's 45 once it gets to the old Walmart, Kmart out there. We're just right there at 45.
I'm still saying,
It's
but
the
no
same route,
Jervy.
it's number
On the
change.
same
Does it
route.
go Taylor Street?
Yes, ma'am.
No, it goes down Jervy.
Go down Jerry.
It goes down
See, that's-
something, make a left on
That's the
Jervy.
original way up Jervy. But
Uh-huh.
still, how does it get to Hardin and Taylor?
It doesn't go to
It
Hardin
doesn't
and
go to
Taylor.
Hardin and Taylor.
Because
401/45 does not go to Hardin and Taylor.
It goes to Jervy and Hardin, not Hardin and Taylor.
In this thing, you get 45. It's super stop.
So I think, I apologize if it's an oversight, but what it is, it's an interline route.
Yeah, I can understand that. I was just
Yeah.
inquiring about it being in Hardin and Taylor. If it's not there.
Oh, I see what
You
you're
see what I'm
saying.
talking
Yeah,
about?
Up there where it
Where you got
says
super
a Lower
stop.
Ridgeland Express, and it has a check by Hardin and Taylor.
And that's 44. He's at.
That's 44. He's asking about 45.
Oh.
Is in the super stop at Hardin and Taylor. And you got 401 in the super stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hardin and Taylor.
Right, we're gonna take a look at 401 as well.
45 and 401 is the
Yeah, but
same.
how did it get down Hardin and Taylor? Does it go up Hardin Street? You got to go up Hardin Street.
You,
So, but
would y'all like me to
nobody
go
said to
around
go up
401
Hardin
now, or-
Street.
Yeah. Go Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, what I was trying to get at was at the beginning of this, when you said there's some routes that are not in the packet because they really are nothing changes for them, is 45 one of those?
Yes, 45 is one of those routes. And also 401 doesn't go to Hardin and Taylor in this case. Yeah, so it was oversight.
Oh, okay. You just put both of them in there. So the only change to Hardin and Taylor is 44 acres, right?
Right,
Low Richland area.
right.
Okay, are we ready to leave 44X and go to 61?
Route 61. Assembly and Blandon and River and Lucius are the two connection points. It's low impact. What it would do is extend from downtown area and go to River and Lucius. So it's not much of an impact that we will see here other than just extended service that have increased connection points.
All right, let me ask you, let me just take a measuring point here. So far, the routes that we've talked about, the only one we've talked about was the first one where you had the plan would require a transfer. None of the rest of these, everything else just runs like it's been running.
Yep, so far.
Okay, so far, okay.
Okay, now on that 61, it'll still go out there by the football stadium.
Yes, yes.
All right, so you know the football players.
Route 84. This is Bush River, St. Andrews. This route here will now go to River and Lucius. And it previously was going downtown. What you can see here is it will be increased frequency, potential of increased frequency, but in this case, maybe more of a layover, if anything at all. But the route just deviates to go to River and Lucius, opposed to going straight downtown.
Did you all follow all that?
Repeat that again, Eric.
So Route 84, it no longer was served downtown, but now we're just deviating, go directly to Lucius and River. So it's a pretty short route. Only time will tell like how much time it takes to get to Lucius and River opposed to going straight downtown. But it may not be much of a difference where we can add time into the schedule, maybe more layover that we'd be looking at in this case. But it is a shorter style route, and I think the riders will appreciate it because it probably make it easier for you to transfer and cut down on that time.
Just one thing, I'm getting a little confused. So maybe you might use another word because you said it'll pulse and go downtown. So there's no pulsing.
I didn't say pulse. Yeah, so I was saying it's going to deviate.
Okay.
It originally was going downtown, but it no longer was served downtown. It would now deviate to go to Lucius and River.
All right. Just want to make sure.
I have a question.
Yes.
The 84 interlines with the 83, so is that going to still stay the same?
Yep. They will speak to one another. So the 83 is not going to change. Yep.
So the
That's one.
84 will still leave, so when 84 leaves River and Lucius, so they go automatically change it, that's where into 83 like it always does.
Absolutely.
It goes up.
Yep.
That's what we were
83 is
confused
that
on.
local.
Yep.
route.
Yep. 83. Yeah. All right. Okay. Beltline, 88. There will be no change with this route. It will terminate at Assembly and Blanding. That's it. But no, I'm sorry. This is. Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry. River and Lucius in this case, River and Lucius. So this was one quick typo, but this will be River and Lucius, but there's no change in this route at all. It would just continue its regular
It
pattern.
doesn't go to Hardin and Taylor.
It doesn't go to Hardin and Taylor.
That's another one we got in there.
Oh, in
Hardin and Taylor.
the handout. Okay.
So if I'm remembering, this is the one that we've really struggled with over time because we were trying to give people a route to go that didn't have to take them through downtown. Really what they wanted to do was to go around. But the things what I remember about this is that it's a long ride for one, and we don't have a lot of people who
Who rides it?
Yeah.
So you ride it?
But the only thing about it, now, that's the across town route.
That's
That
the
is
one,
across
that's
town.
So
across
that's
town,
the
right?
one that connect the two tech schools.
That is correct.
Yeah, so that's never gonna be based on ridership, 88.
Yeah.
So we can forget about that.
Because you're trying to connect
Trying to connect
the two texts.
Connect this, yeah.
But,
the tech
but
schools.
that's interesting that with that being the basis, that we wouldn't have
I
a
think,
lot of riders.
yeah, I think if anything, the same strategies that we use for Soda Cap Connector and some of these other lower performing routes, that same type of effort would have to be spent with Route 88 to try to, garner more
Trying to
ridership.
figure out what,
Maximize.
well, I'm thinking about when we were looking at the routes like to the airport campus of Midlands Tech, and we
Route
found
94 or something like
that we really needed to have a midday route because a lot of the students have their classes in the morning and work somewhere in the afternoon, or have their work in the morning, have classes in the afternoon. And I'm not sure what students are involved in needing to get from one tech campus to another. So I think if that's the major ridership that we're looking at on this, or the anticipated ridership, we really do need to look at what is that population like? Are how many students really are there who need to who have to be at both of those campuses, and on what kind of schedule?
Right, yeah.
So Pam, that's like the Soda Cap.
But you do have a lot of folks that live in the area, adults that aren't students going back and forth.
They use the.
The apartment complexes that are up in.
But this isn't a good route for them. How do they do that? They do another route?
No, they do the 88.
For the direct connection across.
We keep tampering with it and taking days from it, the reason it never grows. Because I don't think we do Sunday, do we? That's one thing we have to look at.
Well, Sunday is one of our lowest ridership days, so we don't see, and because the ridership, like I said, for a route like 88, it will almost be,
But see, the only thing about it, you can't do low ridership and say Sunday is low ridership for some. And the routes that you have with no ridership still running. So we got routes that run with no riders.
I agree. I definitely agree with you. I definitely agree with you. So it is a matter of access.
Yeah.
Some of those routes with that lower ridership, it's a matter of how did we originally get to this point, and normally they start off with a pilot and it just never quite built to the place that we wanted to be. In this case, with Route 88, it is decent at best throughout the week. But in this case, we haven't had any discussions about removing the route at this point in time with the Reimagine the Comet project. It was recommended that we kind of discontinue the project, but at this time, we haven't had any discussion about doing so.
So what are people doing if they're not riding this and they're in that group that you're talking about? There are other routes that they take and just go through downtown rather than going.
That is correct.
So there are other ways for them to get there. It's just that we thought this would help.
And now that I think about it, 88 can almost be treated like River and Lucius a little bit, because it is the crosstown route. So it's like the connection point. So you always have to transfer and you have to connect downtown.
You probably gonna have more people riding 88 now because Lucius will be like downtown.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So now you're gonna have advantage for it.
And say that again. Let me
You're gonna have more people riding 88 because now they can get off from Lucius. That's like going downtown. Once you get off from Lucius, you catch a bus, now you can go downtown. You see what I'm saying?
It's the connection point.
It's the connection point too.
Yep.
So that's probably gonna help us out.
When we make new routes, we'll look at adding Sunday back to that. Folks that live in that area.
Once they start doing that, well, hopefully you're right. They probably add that Sunday, and people see that, you're right.
Yeah, see, and people got to realize some neighborhoods, big neighborhoods, like to see a bus. Other neighborhoods never want to see a bus.
Right.
So you have to evaluate where the buses are going,
And churches are right in those areas too, so, yeah, people do go to church.
Okay, so right now, the discussion we're having now is we aren't at any decision point about making any changes in 88 route. we're just dealing with how it is affected by the Lucius Road Superstop.
That is correct.
Okay,
And so everything that says LRSS is Lucius Road Superstop. So that as a result of the Lucius Road Superstop project, this is the alignment.
okay,
Yeah, that's all.
okay.
But Route 91, Springdale, Casey. It was served Assembly and Blanding and also Comment Central. There's not much that has changed in this at all, so it's low impact. If anything, it just makes it easier to go into Comment Central. Just more of a direct connection instead of making turns, but overall, there will be no change with Route 91.
And that's the route that goes to the airport.
That is correct.
But it don't run on Sundays.
It doesn't
Right.
run on Sunday.
It doesn't operate on Sundays.
And they can't vote for the penny. So, and they ain't paying.
That was the wrong penny they were voting on. I say that.
They won't vote for their
the
own
penny,
penny. They
that
won't
penny
pay us
didn't have
for
any public
for the
transportation.
service.
That was a
And we got,
bad
we
choice.
got folks in Lexington County, excuse me, Ms. Moon, that can get straight downtown and don't pay, and people in Richland County can't get downtown. See, we're gonna, that's gonna be an expansion. We're gonna have to explain that, but we're a long way from finalizing.
Well, and I, you know, I'm the first one to say we're not doing in Lexington County, we're not doing all that we ought to be doing in terms of public
Shut those
transportation.
buses down
But
there.
but I have to remind us that nothing goes to Lexington County that they don't pay the cost of. We don't go to Lexington County unless they pay for it.
They are paying for the
Are they
service.
paying?
They are
Yes,
paying.
yes.
Or when did they start back paying? West Columbia stopped paying.
Well, that, they straightened that out and got it,
Well,
and
now they
everybody's
paying.
paying. Mhm, everybody's
Oh,
paying.
now they paying.
Crazy.
And, you know, in defense of 91, that takes people from Richland County to the airport, because that's where the airport is. So if Ms. Gleaton needs to get to the airport, didn't want to drive, she can get there by 91.
Because 12 would turn into 91, used to.
Does 12 turn into 91 now?
It's still on to Sundays.
It still does, except on Sundays.
Except on Sundays, okay,
That's right.
yeah. So you can go straight to your house to the airport.
But the thing about 91, people saying, well, how you gonna run the city, but you ain't got a bus going to the airport on Sundays? You understand what I'm saying?
That's a good point,
Yeah,
because
we
people fly out.
I said, we working on it. That's
had a chairperson that thought the bus went to the airport. You can see how much they knew.
But also that bus goes over there by Lexington Hospital, right, Ms. Moon?
That's 96.
96, but it don't run on Sundays
It
neither.
doesn't run on Sundays either.
Okay, well, if I call 12 to go to, some of my doctors have moved over there now. If I call 12, then I would have to make the connection way over there by the Kmart.
Yes, ma'am, you have to catch the 91 and jump off of that and jump on the 96, which will take you over to Lexington Medical
Because
Center.
my doctors are moving out of Richland County now, they're moving, everybody's merging over there in Lexington County now.
Ms. Moon, I'm gonna ask you this. Why did we stop the loop? You know, it was a loop going around the hospitals, airport, years ago now. It used to go both ways, because we almost went
Because we've
to,
gone a long time when we didn't
Went
have
to
any
6.
bus going to the airport. It's been a long time until this one.
so we used to loop it, you know.
I mean, and this is one of, this, I'm just making myself notes about questions like that you all raised to, like airport bus on Sunday. You know, these are not things for this, but they're things that we need to be thinking about. But here's the difficulty with how, here's one of the difficulties with this, is that we say, okay, well, here are all these people in Richland County who want to go to the airport on Sunday. But the way we're structured, Lexington County has to pay for the bus to go to the airport because it's in Lexington County.
Right.
And so, you know, it's that old issue of the fact that you're providing services to Richland County residents, but because where it's going is in Lexington County, the way we work it, Lexington County has to pay for it.
Now the way it works, if it's something that Richland County wants, we don't even go to Lexington and request it, you know, even a courtesy. We just put it in. That's why I was instructed by the mayor one time. Well, if Lexington don't want this route and passengers in Columbia want it, we put it in. But we kind of backed up that, because we wanted to put a route to Amazon before Amazon was even built. And Lexington didn't want the bus. And we just said, no, remember, that wasn't but a few years ago.
So that situation where you say, well, let's try a pilot and you
No,
underwrite.
this wasn't no pilot. We weren't piloting then. We were putting bus service in, so when they were built, the workers would have transportation to it. I mean, several times we tried to put buses that wouldn't have cost Lexington a penny, and Lexington didn't want the bus.
I remember that.
Well, I remember those situations, but that doesn't overlap for me with naive.
See, if our next service meeting, we decide we want a bus that goes to the airport every Sunday, we can put that bus in. But it's a courtesy the politicians would talk with Lexington politician, just as a courtesy agreement. But it wouldn't cost Lexington a penny. These things ain't costing Lexington nothing now.
Well, I think and you know, we'd have to talk to the people who do the budget and the finances part, but I think that I don't think we can spend Richland penny to, you know, in Lexington County. I don't think that's how we do it.
We've done that ever since I've been on the board, spend it in Lexington without Lexington equaling around the cost.
I'll make that as one of those questions that we don't have to settle
Lexington is
today,
here,
but.
That's why they meet with Lexington to see if Lexington want to pay.
Yeah, and we definitely make sure we pose that question to Rosalind as well, because she.
Yeah.
was able to see it
So
on-
I'll have that on my question list. It doesn't affect this
Right.
work today, but it's one of those questions that we want to get answered.
And keep in mind too, depending on what the budget is how service gets allocated. So a while back, we reduced service on Sundays. We cut off the start times for some routes and also the evening late night service as well. But the reason being is because we didn't have enough ridership. And our goal was to take a look at the penny tax, how much money we had coming in, trying to plan for what tomorrow may look like in any case that the penny tax was removed. So some of these decisions that were made were as a result of us just trying to be preventative for anything that may happen. And also making sure we had the best service, the most optimal service in place.
Well, and I think sometimes too, and I don't want to take us too far down a rabbit trail, but I think sometimes too, necessity is the mother of invention because we didn't have the money to keep running the buses this late. That's what spawned the innovation of contracting with Uber and Lyft, so that we weren't running a 40-foot bus for two people who had to get home from work at night.
Right.
You know, it was better for us and better for them to subsidize their ride home on Uber and Lyft than send an empty bus.
Yep, absolutely.
So sometimes we stumble upon a better solution because of the problems we have.
It's moved.
Eric.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'll wait.
Eric, this is Jackie. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let me say this about route changes that will require buses. And I've heard everything that was said, and I've heard all the concerns, which are valid concerns. At this point today, we're averaging 15 buses that's out of service for mechanical reasons. That's 15 buses out of our fleet. So regardless of what we decide to plan, even with the Lucius Road Superstock, we have to keep in mind we cannot make any plans that will require an extra bus at this time. We just don't have an extra bus. And Lynn is there, Lynn's a dispatcher, and she can tell you, she can verify this. We are struggling with having enough buses. So to create routes or change routes that will create another bus, we're setting ourselves up for failure. So we got to keep that in mind when we're talking about route changes, adding routes. We do, and I heard the conversation about the routes that with no ridership. We have two routes that I know of now, which is the Sumter route and the Newberry route, which has like 0 ridership. Sumter has like 0 ridership. Newberry have about 2, I think about 2 riders. And one of those riders is, I think, Blake, our intern. So when he doesn't ride, it's basically 1 person. So we do need to look into discontinuing these routes that's not transporting anybody, because we need the buses. And the reason why the buses are out of service so long is because of parts. And that's across the nation. We just can't get parts in. We've got buses that's been out for almost a year waiting on engines and parts. So let's keep in mind that when we're talking about these route changes and the things that we desire as far as what we want to see, especially when it comes to the Lucius Road stop, we need to keep in mind that we have a limited number of buses.
Jackie, thank you for that information, because it certainly is important information for us to take into account. And it's really, it's troubling to think about the fact that we would have to restrict any service growth because of getting parts. I mean, that's hard to swallow, isn't it? To think you got enough buses sitting around waiting to run, but you can't get them running.
We can't get parts, and that's everywhere.
In the morning.
That's everywhere. All the transportation agencies are dealing with the same thing.
Right. And so probably one piece of information we'd need to add to any one of these route changes that we're talking to today is the question of, will this change require another bus? That's the point you started out raising?
And, well, none of the.
Right.
None of the
changes Eric.
we talked about so far
will require a bus.
another bus.
And to specify too, the buses that we're talking about is the 35-foot buses, the 40-foot buses. We do have a few cutaway buses available, but overall we don't have.
We're missing those 15, but those are the big ones.
Those larger buses we do not have.
If y'all look out in our
And
parking lot
Eric,
right now, you'll see.
A lot of buses sitting out.
You'll see nothing out there in the parking lot, because everything that's running is on the street right now. We have no spares. We have nothing running. And we hope and pray every day that's not breakdown. If not, hopefully the mechanic can go out there and fix it and patch it up just to get it in. So we can keep the service going.
yes, so that's why it's crucial that those routes that's not transporting anyone, we really need to look into discontinuing those routes so we can get those buses.
I'm making a note of that for our service committee.
How about the Sumter route?
So
How many people on that?
almost
0.
Brennan just joined.
Yeah, one lady ride faithfully. Other than
Other than that, nobody.
And we were talking about this before the meeting.
Yeah, we run it twice in the morning, twice in the afternoon.
Wow.
that, you run Newberry
The
once.
Newberry's
in a
doing
month.
once.
Nobody's on that one either.
One lady rides
young man right there,
faithfully
Miss
and
Debbie.
sometimes late.
Yeah, Blake and Devin.
Yeah, that's it.
That's Christina.
Actually, the one lady that I know rides, she actually has a car.
Yes.
She parks and
Yeah.
takes.
Parks and chaping the
Yeah.
park around.
Yeah.
Those routes.
I know as a Debbie.
I know she used to be a rider, but I'm not sure if anything changed, but.
Well, I think those are valid points to raise, and I'm making a note of it.
Well, if we can name all the riders on the route. I mean, it goes to show
On a
you.
first name basis, you know they're not meeting you on a first name basis.
But like Mr. Patterson said, we can use them buses as spare, but then you're taking away from people
buses
going to something Newberry. So
Right.
it's like, I don't know.
So you don't have.
It's catch-22 if we don't.
Catch 22.
Yeah.
And in the morning time, sometimes Mr. Patterson, he does the Route 301. He'll come in, he don't have his 35-foot bus, he had his cutaway because we had to use his 35-foot
Breaks my
bus on
heart.
another bus that we
Really
needed to have a higher ridership.
So
All right, so now I think I missed something in that discussion. Are you saying that if we said, okay, we need to discontinue routes where we don't have the ridership, are you saying that doesn't add up, free up buses?
That would free up 2 buses in the morning time and 2 buses, and
And that would help a lot.
that would help out. That would help, that would
really
free
would.
up 2 vans in the morning cutaways that we could use on somewhere else. And that would, in afternoons, it would, free up 3 cutaways in afternoons, where we could utilize them for spares somewhere else in case we had a break.
Right back up.
Now, the killer part, when we go into Sumter come to Columbia.
Yeah, because
See what I'm
Sumter got
saying?
Santee Water-Reed has a bus that comes up here and drops off at Condon Central.
Well,
That
see-
brings passengers. Miss Barbara, she doesn't ride the bus in the morning time from Sumter, but she catches our bus in the afternoons back to Sumter because Santee Water-Reed, she misses the Santee Water-Reed to get back home, get back to her car.
All right, so here, now see, this is where there's been a breakdown somewhere, because my understanding was that the reason we was running that bus was because Santee Water-Reed, at the time that we initiated our Sumter bus, was because Santee Water-Reed didn't have the capacity, didn't have the ability to do that. But if they're running the
They're
bus,
coming up here. We see them up here. Yes. They're up here all the time.
Yeah, this stuff look better than ours.
Yes, and they drop off in the morning and they pick up in the afternoon.
And I think as a action item, we could coordinate with Santee Water-Reed and see what we can do to accommodate passengers that need access. Maybe there's just a scheduled conversation and see what we can work out.
so if the 1 or 2 that are riding ours
Yep.
couldn't ride their bus.
And as of right now, coming inbound, you're saying that we don't have any that's riding anyway. It's only going outbound. And so if anything, it's just a matter of having a discussion about once the bus leaves or departs late in the afternoon, making sure they account for all the passengers.
And the ones that they do pick up coming inbound, they can catch that 47.
Yep.
And that 47 can bring them straight over
So
to the
either way,
super
they still
stop.
have access.
Walmart, catch that 45 to get on into town.
Yep.
I think this is gonna be very productive, this work session. Okay, all right. So we ready to move from Springdale, Casey? Do we need to take a break a minute?
Yeah, I think y'all might want to take a short break.
All right.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. So y'all please get some refreshments.
That sounds good to me. All right, so we'll just take a 10 minute.
10?
10 minutes.
I know where 4 buses are.
Stop.
I'm gonna get you.
Be nice, Mr. Furgess.
First you heard, she said, be nice. Oh, yeah, that was nice.
I'm gonna go check it on Tyrone and see if we can find anybody.
Yeah.
Because we have somebody working on the break right now, so we can come up and free someone else up.
Killing it up there.
Right down there and ask.
No pun intended, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I was just in a daydream.
We're not holding y'all.
Oh, no.
Yeah, media. Because I don't have it in front of me. So. I think that way, like, if we need to chime in, it's like, we probably should have it and get it information, because I can't see it on Lucius. At the same time. Right, for the most part. But even then, when you zoom out, it's like, I know what's going on downtown, but it's kind of hard.
I think when you consider the route by itself and.
Sometimes
Sooner it's always gonna route. For example, like 12 or 11 to replace that segment 6. Like, you know, see why it's going to stand next to this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is, I'm thinking about, I got to let the folks around us know, about this discussion. But
It's always good to see you.
But what I'm thinking about is, I mean, even if we stop, even if everybody along that route contributed to the route, I mean, yeah, even if they pay, that wouldn't help us. Because it wouldn't, you have to buy a bus. To buy a bus.
And I think part of the rationale, because it was before me, but part of the rationale was probably because what's out there, Samsung
Samsung, and there was like the Newberry Smart Ride that was operated by Brennan.
Yeah, that's how we got started. And the Newberry, the Smart Ride, I mean, they were riding full buses.
Yeah, Smart Ride was a really popular program.
It was. And then the problem was that when, and people came back to us when Newberry said they weren't going to do it. The riders came to us and said, can you pick this up again? Because we need it. But it took us so long. They lost it. Things happen. I mean, people found other ways to get to work, or they changed jobs, or they moved, or, so. We had to kind of start over, build it around.
I think it's, you gotta come up with, I-26 is improving, that's gonna encourage more car ownership and ride ownership. We've also got those,
We're gonna talk
park
about
rides hidden, you guys hidden service.
It's gonna be interesting.
Highways. That's why, people take their car.
It won't be as bad as that.
But you don't have all the
If we
buses.
can't build a ride, it is such a nightmare to drive it. I mean, I don't know what we would do.
I always tell it as like, you're working on the way to work.
Yeah, it doesn't shorten your drive, it doesn't shorten your ride, but it's productive time.
I got a lot of emails when I was on the bus.
Yeah.
Emails and podcasts, and I got to work on the
Why they don't do the sidewalk? How do they do the sidewalk on the side? But this way.
I mean, I now like on roads with the semester and it's 21, it's at least more choice riders. There's like always like 4 USC kids who like have cars. And they always think about having cars.
And that's a way.
21 Rosewood. I started riding it.
Somebody should move from somewhere else.
I started riding it at 21, it was weird. I was at the
Banging these doors down.
Yeah. So I mean, I do it a lot of the government's on campus, trying to push out our service system.
Well, because the other thing that was bad was when they started building all that senior houses that we thought was gonna ride buses. And before we could get it, they bought buses and stuff. You thought about it. Cost them, they wear it out.
Yeah, we've actually had a few complexes reach out to us. We're trees and they pay like $100,000 a year for a bus. Just buying passes for 61. It's the same frequency. But they're going
You do?
yeah, we've got a lot of complexes. One, they don't expensive to run their own show, but also they don't have reliability with the maintenance issues. So if you can reach out to us.
And it might be worth calling them.
Right, exactly.
They may not have thought about that. Their personnel changes.
Yeah. It would never be all these on-campus student housing projects are spreading off campus really far now.
The push comes from
Yeah, we actually had, as the comment line, the proclamation for student senate. So now is recognized by our student senate. Had some micromobility programs with the student senate. So we got like a few things going on there. The last one I shared was the 5-point shuttle. The graphic post on social media for student government. And over like 15 students engaged.
I guess I need to be presentable with my shoes on.
So it was getting really popular. Yeah. So we're telling people, let us do the writing. Like, please don't try if you're 25.
And so you talked about when you and the
It's a lot of work every.
the poster was a little pretty. Is it fixed now?
No, but it's still another post.
The same, I think we're ready to do that. But they're going through
That's all, that's on transportation I had.
Okay, are we ready to start, get started here?
Some of these buses ain't.
All right,
So we just finished 91.
91, so we don't have much remaining.
Well,
All right, now we're at 92X. There will be a change on this one. It would now, it will serve assembly and blended, which is the same what it's doing today. And it will serve River, no, it would not serve River and Lucius in this case. So just assembly and blended. Yes, just assembly and blended, not River and Lucius. Sorry about that. But here, with the extended service,
so that check on River and Lucius is not.
yeah, you can scratch it out there on your back, on your presentation. And I caught it because again, you see the loop down here, that's Comet Central, so it's going straight through, so that's assembly and blended.
Now, what does it do when they get there? Turn around or man with something else?
To River and Lucius?
It's 92X.
Yes, it would go, it will connect to other routes.
Is that the bus that come through Casey?
Yeah, I mean, does it change or
Yes, it
does
does.
it turn around and go back?
Yeah, it turns around and goes back.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I thought that Trust Street, that's Casey Extension. Okay,
It goes to Amazon.
Amazon.
That's the Amazon route.
That's Amazon now.
Yes, ma'am. So again, you won't see much change on this one. If anything, it's just an extension. You will still have access to downtown by way of assembly and blended, so you could walk over to River and Lucius. And that's the same case for any location that's only going to assembly and blended. I'll make a note to adjust the presentation accordingly.
Before you move, let me ask you something. On assembly and blending, are those buses hitting there at different time frames? But how many gonna hit that area at the same time? Do you have an idea right now?
The way we lined it up, it was 6, I think it was 5 to 6 buses at assembly and blending.
At the same time?
Around the same time. So it may not be exactly at the same time, but there will be a stagger. So one bus may arrive at one point, next bus maybe 5 minutes later. Worst case or best case, however you want to look at it, be 5 buses there at one time. Getting ready to pull out.
15 after the hour, that's what you're doing, that right?
Yeah.
How many is there now?
It's about the same number.
Oh, okay, okay.
And they leave about 15 after.
So no changes there.
No change.
I think if anything, we added an additional bus. We just wanted to make sure that we had enough room. So I had to go out there and count.
All right, so this is the one that we really just did finish discussing.
Yeah, this is that 93X. It currently stops at Assembly and Blandon, River and Lucius, and Comet Central. There's no change as of right now, but it's just important to note that
That's on our list to discuss, just
That
because
is
of
on life
Friday.
support.
it's on life support.
I'll say something about that just for a second.
Yes.
Due to the construction that is going to be happening with the interstate.
Oh, I-26.
Yeah. Instead of coming down 26 in the mornings or in the afternoons, would it switch over to 76?
What determines whether it goes 26 or 76? What determines that?
It's the path of least resistance in this case. It's the faster way to go. It's not that we couldn't go another way.
I'm just thinking it's going to be kind of gummy when the construction.
Absolutely. I think if anything too, depending on how we discuss this route, we'll probably have to engage the construction firm that will be operating on the I-26 project.
I want to mention something about that too. Back when when they were first starting that project, planning it, we were a part of that plan. And one of the things that I brought up at the time was something that they have in Atlanta, they have in Charlotte, where they have a dedicated lane for buses and trucks. And DOT said, no, they weren't going to do that. I think you need to revisit that with them. Because, you know, they talk about supply line problems all the time. That's going to really slow down, start going to and from Charleston and Greenville and everything else.
Yeah.
Even if they have to,
Like HOV lane, something along there.
Like, I'll be glad for you to beat your head against that wall.
well,
I did that when they were talking this project and no, they had 1,000 reasons why that, they
That's
didn't want to do
exactly
that.
right.
They didn't want to do that.
But if you approach it in more constructive, this is going to help you a lot, help the economy a lot. Maybe they'll revisit it, so that might be.
Well, I tell you, and they tell us we're gonna be in this mess on 26 for 7 more years. I mean, that it's not, we're not talking about being finished in the.
Yeah, it's gonna be ugly. And
It is. I ride that.
And I too have advocated for the same thing, and I was told no. But what we can do is revisit the conversation and see if, you know, energy has changed. But yeah.
Okay, and I'll make a note of that too.
All right, 96L, West Columbia, Casey. This route here will serve River and Lucius. It will no longer have direct access to downtown. Route, again, it will be extended in this case, so not much of a impact, but it will be medium in this case because people will have to change over to another bus. But this is something that can happen in more of a seamless fashion, similar to other routes that we've discussed before.
All right, so now, this is that other route that somebody was asking about that goes to Lexington Medical Center.
I was.
Right.
And we can say with this route as well, with West Columbia, this doesn't have direct access to downtown. It goes to that River Lucius location.
So they're gonna add more to it.
So this does give that route access to downtown Columbia.
No, it removes it.
It doesn't do it. It doesn't.
No.
Right now, it just goes downtown in the morning time and afternoon, then it stays out in the West Columbia area and it meets at the super stop at Kmart, the 91.
Kind of by that Kmart. So that's one of the super stops you said about that Kmart down
Yes,
here?
ma'am, that's what they consider it because that's where the 91 and the 96
Right,
connects.
right, that connects
Right there,
there.
that's the connecting point for those two routes.
So that's the one that going on up to the Lexington
William
Hospital.
Street and the Charleston.
Right.
Yes, ma'am,
'Cause
right
I
there.
think
the
that's
old
why I
Kmart.
had to connect one
And
time
Kmart.
over there.
Yeah, and there would still be a connection point in West Columbia to downtown.
Mhm.
But again, if you're trying to connect to other routes, you would have to go to Lucius and River.
Because a lot of the doctors in Columbia are merging over there in Lexington County now.
Yes, ma'am.
Because a lot of my doctors have moved from over here, over there.
Lexington is building up.
Oh, yeah.
It's building up really.
It's study,
Can you go back
it's
one
study
further?
expanding.
So the
Go back one slide.
two things that I'm looking at on this is the two ways that people can get into downtown is to get on either the Soda Cap 1 or 91.
Yep, I was just about to mention, there's a transfer point on Alexander Road for Soda Cap 1, which will take you right to downtown. Yeah, so I think, in the first trip and last trip will be, Lucius River, but throughout the day, you can take Soda Cap 1 to get to downtown. So there's more connectivity options.
Yeah, would that be the only one from West Columbia in case?
96, and you can also catch 91 at Kmart to go downtown.
Any other questions about that one?
All right, Route 101 North Main. Now we're moving into these high ridership routes. So it would now connect to River and Lucius, no longer extended to Comet Central. But what we know for sure that this route will have higher frequency. Right now, 101 has 2 buses, operates with 2 on a 30-minute frequency. This would definitely spike up that headway. So we might be looking at around 15 to 20 minutes.
With that bus, it's a high ridership. Everybody on that bus heading downtown. No, that's,
Yeah.
I would take another look at that, not going to Comet Central.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they like getting off at Main and Elmwood or Transit,
That's right.
Comet Central.
That's why I was asking about the facilities.
No, understood. I think in this case too, bearing in mind that the goal is to downsize Laura and Sumter. And so some of these routes, they would have to kind of find a way to, use Lucius and River without having to extend all the way.
So the main objective in this would be just to decrease the congestion at Comet Central.
Which, yeah, that's the main objective in this case, but it also increases the amount of time that you can get close to downtown. So it speeds up North Main like this. If you don't have any time that you're probably gonna wait at all for a bus, you can get up and down North Main with no issue. But being able to transfer, we have multiple routes turning over to go downtown, so they will always have immediate access to get there.
The only thing about that 101 covers a huge area. Folks that catch that bus, that ain't gonna fly, so I wouldn't waste any time trying to plan that bus not going downtown.
So there won't be no buses between Sunset and Elmwood?
That's what, because you see, 101 covers Sunset, Elmwood.
There would be,
We still got.
when we get to that point, there are buses that will go from Sunset down to
Transfer.
Elmwood.
Yeah, not the 101.
And that's the main bus in Miss Herbert's district.
The one.
All right? Take that in consideration.
So if I'm hearing right, this is one of the first ones we've come to where we have real serious concerns about implement that.
I don't think we have any concerns about it. It's just, this was a pencil thing. This is a heavy riding, heavy boating area. Everything goes on in the North Main area.
Yeah.
We got colleges in the North Main area.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you
Take a mic, like you say, you probably don't mess with that one.
Yeah, we'll try to mess with that one.
I agree, and just from an intuitive standpoint, if I'm new to Columbia, I know North Main, that's gotta take me downtown. Because Main Street everywhere is downtown.
Well,
Let me ask you this question.
yeah.
We got 8 routes like this. And what I'm getting, those are the only 8 routes that's going to Comet Central. So which is heading in the right direction is a good move. Now, those routes don't have to post. Those routes just have to go to Comet, past Comet Central. And only 8. And now, how many do you have at one time now? About 17? Whatever, whoever show up.
20.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So if you, now every bus went there at one time, so if you can reduce that to 8, you cooking with gas.
Yeah.
You mean even if this one continues to go there?
Continues, yeah.
It will be similar with the next couple of routes too, so I want to make sure that, well, I think the picture has been painted pretty well, but that picture is probably going to apply towards Route 301 as well. So Route 301 wouldn't go directly downtown as well.
All right, so we ready to leave 101, we know about that.
Yes.
Okay.
Whoa. We agree that 101 needs to go straight downtown?
Understood.
Okay.
And just based on recommendation as well, it probably, it might be fair to align it from North Main to Lucius and River and then go downtown and loop around and go back up to its normal path. So in that case, it would just.
So it'll go both places.
It'll go to both in this case. That way people that needs the extra connection at Lucius and River, they can have access to get downtown. So they just added.
All right, so then what it would look like is where it turns to go to Lucius Road, then it would just take a direct route back to.
Yeah, it would just loop.
I don't think you want to do that.
I'll throw
I
the
don't
question.
think those routes, need to go from the area they originated straight downtown.
Right.
I
They
don't
shouldn't
think it
have
needs to go to
transfers,
Lucius Road at all.
jump, you know.
You don't think Lucius at all?
What were you seeing it would accomplish to do
So
that?
again, the transfer, because remember, people that are waiting at Lucius and River, if they want to have access to downtown, this would just add another bus of a connection point.
All right, now that goes back to your first one. If those buses went straight downtown and somebody from Lucius Road wanted to go downtown, that's where number 6 comes in. See, number 6 could be your bus that goes downtown, picking up all the folks that need to go downtown and at a higher frequency. See what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Instead of 101, use 6 as the one that goes to Lucius and River and connect to the
Yeah,
downtown.
since it's running through there anyway.
Okay.
And it's in down, you know, so if any, I wouldn't plan to load that bus, but I would put it in at a bigger frequency than it is now. So if you're there and that bus, say that bus running what, 20 minutes, 25, and it's running like that all day long, you know, we got, you covering Lucius Road down to get downtown.
And see, in this case, they would add 2 additional buses going to Lucius, going to Common Central. So the goal is if we can cut down on the number of buses that are going to Common Central. So in this case, if we chose 101 to go to both, then that's fine. But if in this case, based on recommendation, if we choose 101 to go directly to Common Central, not go to River and Lucius, but we choose the 6 to do both, now we're adding 2 buses opposed to 1 just doing the work.
See, I'm thinking you can't get around that for the simple reason, if we develop that intermodal, which I hope, then the only buses,
I'm pushing for the same thing.
still, those clusters wouldn't matter. Those buses, those 1 through 8 will be the only one that really matter because everything is already set in the super stops.
I 100% agree. I think with the introduction of an intermodal facility, all of these issues pretty much get resolved immediately. And that's, I'm a huge advocate for it. I think in this case, we kind of have to choose, or we need to sway more so on the side of choosing one or the other.
I'm thinking, if I can get Ms. Gleaton to speak up, 12 going downtown. We got 5 of the
Did we
other
just
buses.
put the system in reverse?
Yeah.
You said 12 was going to Common Central and Blandon and.
No, we were talking about the 6. Well,
Now, where you gonna put me on 12 at?
12 is going down.
Yeah, 12 is going downtown. So I'm thinking, when you put 12 and 6 going downtown
That's true.
through the superstar, you covered yourself as far as Lucius Road. Because you got 2 buses going from Lucius Road.
But in this case, we're also extending 101 to Common Central as well. What I'm saying is if 101 goes to Lucius and River, not saying it has to, but if it goes to Lucius and River, it adds the extra connection and goes downtown. That's 1 route. But in this case, if it doesn't go to Lucius and River, that means there's 1 less bus at Lucius and River that can give people access to downtown.
No,
But you're adding more traffic by adding
So
Route
you
6.
wouldn't even be changing the routes 101. You would only, because 101 wouldn't go to Lucius Road, so that route wouldn't change. But 6 would come through Lucius Road and then you just have to increase the frequency. And that's a plus, just people won't be mad saying I ain't waiting for another connection.
I have a question. This is Tina. Can y'all hear me? On the 101, you mentioned one of the reasons to go to Lucius was to pick up people trying to get to downtown. Do you not have concerns that there are people who will be on 101 who want to go to Lucius to go to another location? But it's more or less picking up folks.
And they need to go there to connect to another route.
On North Main or something. That is a case in point as well. And I think we got so caught up in just downtown connection. So again, there may be people that want to connect to those other routes that want to get the other area.
All right, but not North Main, because that's the one they're already on. They wouldn't be.
No, what we're saying is like, because some routes only go to Lucius and River, they terminate there. but they may go to other areas like Harbison or somewhere else.
Right.
So they may want that connection point because there's no direct connection at Commerce Central now for some of those routes.
Yeah, so for that reason, I'm okay with it going to both.
That's what would make you lean toward both instead of either or. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yes, because I know that you'll have plenty of people who want to go to the Broad River Harbison side from North Main.
Correct.
I've got the question about going to both. If we go to both, I guess food for thought, I mean, what's the time difference between going to Lucius River and taking the art loop downtown versus 101 and going to Lucius River and downtown? If you're just going to Lucius River, you have higher frequency on 101, and then you could take art going downtown instead of both going down.
So we're gonna get to that one too. What Blake is talking about is what we discussed in the last service committee meeting, the proposed, the loop. So that is a proposed solution for some of these routes. So even 101, we're gonna get to that map that kind of shows how we resolve most of these issues. And so much of this conversation may be placed to the side over some of the
So
concerns.
we're just gonna put a comma on them.
There we go.
And then come back to it if we need to.
There we go. So we'll keep this in mind for Route 101.
Keep this in mind too, that if somebody in North Main want to go Broad River, you got 801 going downtown too. You got every bus to every area crossing Common Central.
Unless 801 is going to River.
Unless
Unless 801 is gonna be one of the ones coming to Lucius and River,
Yep.
and they can connect with it right there, right up here. Because it would make more sense, 801 if,
And that's why I was saying.
801 is not going to,
I mean, I don't know, but if they don't have 801 going, if they have 801
801
coming
is
straight
going.
up Broad River to Lucius, if they could just, because a lot of the passengers do like to catch the 101 and they like to get off at Main and Elmwood because they want to jump on the 801. So if they did make 101 going to Lucius, and if 801's there, then that's gonna make their connecting point a lot easier and a lot better for them.
Okay, but let me throw out a.
with those.
All right, did somebody write all that down?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the map in her head is amazing.
I love it.
I've been here for 17 years, so I kind of know the whole system.
You can see it with.
I can see.
Let me throw out a scenario. 7 o'clock in the morning, people are coming down North Main. They get down to Lucius Road. To get on another bus, let's say the 401, because 401 and 501 go downtown. Okay. So the people that are already on the 401 and 501 have to merge with those folks coming down 101. It's going to be a rather crowded bus. Same thing with 801 when we get to that. But point is, 101, 801, in my mind, are the most popular used buses in the fleet.
Correct.
And for you to end it at Lucius Road, I mean, those people either going to be late for work or they're going to be so confused, they're not going to know what to do.
But you were saying both, right?
So that's why
Yeah,
101 needs to go.
they both connect. They both. will
No, I
connect.
mean, going both places, Lucius Road and Common Central.
Yeah, for Route 101, the proposal was for it to do both. If we were going to choose one to do both, we can do that. But I do want to, again, put that pencil in where we kind of place a comma because we have a solution to these high ridership routes that may alleviate much of the issues that we're seeing.
Give me 501, what do you get the routes to?
All the 3-digit routes, they're pretty.
Yeah, that big.
And 501 and 55.
That's right, sure, right, they make that connection.
And Route 301 is in similar fashion. It will terminate at Lucius and River. I guess I can just kind of speed through the bulk of this because they're similar. Route 401 is the one route, but it's because of the direction that it's coming from. It will touch Comet Central and River and Lucius, and then go to, Comet Central, then go to River and Lucius. In this case, the route just gets extended, but it won't be as much of an impact, so that's why I labeled it as medium. And looking at 501, again, we're going to get to the solution of it all. But looking at 501, this one also hits Comet Central because of the direction that it's coming in town. And then it goes to it loops around, goes to Assembly Landing.
Quick question, those last two routes. So if those two routes are on a 35 or 40-foot bus, can that go down river?
Say that one time, please.
Those two routes, if they're on a 35 or 40-foot bus, are they allowed to go down the river? I know there was some neighborhood issues with large buses.
Oh, yeah, they can.
Okay.
They can.
No, we can't go down River Drive.
No, we can't, that neighborhood
With-
don't want us on.
With which
We,
size
we
buses?
can't take the big buses down River Drive. We can, the cutaways.
Tell me about that.
The neighborhood does
Yeah,
not
we
want
were
our big
informed,
buses.
we were informed years ago about traveling down River Drive with the big buses.
Well, that may be one of those things that we need to revisit, because River Drive is really a big thoroughfare now. You know, that's not just a neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's
What about that area
Neighborhood,
too?
people in that
The
neighborhood don't
councilman
want
that
our
live in there.
Yeah.
So,
Well, isn't River Drive part of a US highway? Isn't that US 76 highway?
That
That's
should
Broad
be a
River
DOT
Road.
road.
So that should be a DOT road, so they should be able to block this thing.
The Broad River is the main road, but we can confirm whether or not it's a DOT, but I believe it's a DOT
Yeah.
road.
I have a question.
Yes.
Miss Tina Herbert?
Route 12 Edgewood. I have gotten a lot of, there's one route that goes through Elmwood Park. And I'm trying to look on the map to see if that is the old route on here or the new route, but I do get complaints from them because they have very low ridership in their neighborhood, but a bus going through their neighborhood with very, very narrow roads. Do we still have that route going through there?
I think that's 6, isn't it?
Park Street, bro.
Yeah, that's Route 6.
Route 6 on Park Street, that's where those speed bumps are.
Yeah.
And is there a workaround for that or no? Because it looks like Edgewood is going to go through too now.
Yeah, Route 6 gets cut off, 12 picks up where it leaves off. But there is a workaround, but we do have bus stops along that corridor. I think that the biggest thing here, and we've received these complaints before, in various neighborhoods, normally the people that don't ride the routes and that don't want the bus, they normally say, hey, the buses are driving too fast, or they have some sort of a complaint and why they don't want the bus in their community. I'm not saying that it can't be changed, but are you recommending that it should be changed? I guess in affecting the riders that actually use the bus in that neighborhood.
What I would ask is that you all look at an alternative and then make a recommendation. Is that fair enough?
That's fair.
And so the alternative is the Route 6 that goes through Park Street.
Yep. It's the short, quick connection there, but it could come down Main, it could go up I-26, right? And go down Broad River.
Well, and I think too, every time, and Ms. Herbert, you know this probably better than any of us because you're an elected official, but every time you get an objection to something, I know you have to listen to, when you say, well, I'm hearing from the community, you have to say, what part of the community are you hearing from? Because sometimes the people who have the complaints are not the people who do the service.
Right.
Oh, I definitely. Yeah, I definitely understand that, but I also, because I used to be staff, I also really do believe in getting recommendations from staff. But I want to make sure that I've done some due diligence, and if y'all just look at an option and come back with it and make a recommendation, then we'll go from there. Is that fair enough?
Sure, sure. And let me ask the drivers, what is it like to drive that bus through that neighborhood? Because I mean, it's tight.
It's very
It's
tight. It's real tight. You just have to use extreme caution.
And you said speed bumps.
We got the speed bumps too, so you can't speed through there, so they might cause buses are speeding, they're not, because you can't speed at all, because you gotta go over each speed bump.
Well, and I wasn't thinking so much in terms of the bus speeding as I was in terms of what does that do to the route timing and
It slows you down.
Yeah, so, and without actually looking at the data, would you say that there are people that ride the bus through that neighborhood or?
You might pick up one or two people on that street. Majority of people on Route 6 and going down Park Street, we usually pick them up over here in the Eau Claire area.
Okay.
That's the ones that mainly, and they jump off right up here at Main and Elmwood because they either work at that school that's behind it right there.
Yeah.
Or they jumping over to go jump on the 801 to make the connection with the 801 at Main and Elmwood. If you're going downtown.
Yeah. Okay.
And also too, Eric, the apartments.
Also got to think about the apartments down here that we have to pick up.
I'm sorry, say that one more time, Jackie.
There's an apartment straight down here on Lucius on the corner.
Yeah, apartments,
We have a lot of riders that catch.
Yeah, those apartments are down there.
And then what's the name of it now? Right here on Lucius?
No.
Riverbend. Riverbend or something right there on the corner.
And that's the route that comes through down Park Street to there.
Yes, ma'am. That's what Route 6, Route 6 comes right out in front of us. And then we go down here and right as soon as you go around the sharp curve, there's apartments right there that we pick up a lot of passengers and stuff there too. That's a heavy stop.
Hey, Eric, this is Leroy.
So it's not so much the people that you pick up on Park Street, it's where those people are going. Or coming from.
Yes.
Leroy has
Leroy, Jackie.
Yes, just want to make a point in addressing Ms. Herbert's issue too and getting further information. You mentioned the data. So if you could go through that whole area, you and Blake, and just pull, the ridership from each stop, over the course of a period, that will give us a good idea too, whether anybody's using the service through there as you look at working on the option for her.
And Leroy, that'd be another thing that we could look at it, need to look at the service committee meeting when we look at ridership analysis. We could look at that.
Yeah, so in narrowing it down to those stops would be even better to give us a good feel.
How many stops?
Is that by kind of like past Lucius and River, kind of going downtown area? Yeah, I mean, I've got data from January to May of 2022. It doesn't look like we've got high ridership in those few stops.
And that's the stops along Park Street?
There's some high ridership on outbound, inbounds, not too many. Time of day. Yeah, not too many inbound, outbound looks like it's got the ones that have most.
So what is that?
Now specifically,
Give you a specific number?
Yeah, we've got Lucius Midblock has the highest one at almost 4 boardings average, but the other ones are, 1 to 2 average.
Specifically looking at the stops on Park Street, because that's probably going to be the most crucial one, because they still have access to Lucius and River regardless.
Yeah, Park Street, looks like has supposed to be Park Abbeville, but most of them are pretty low. Most of them are averaging like 0.4.
Okay, so it's rare for us to have a.
Is that for you to pick up or let people off on Park Street?
Major bus stop on Park is Park and Elmwood, and in front of the apartments at Wardline, because we got people, because that's where they can connect with the 801.
So
That's
the major key would be.
Before you get into the neighborhood.
Ms. Herbert,
So
I'm not
Eric.
sure if you caught that. But yeah, we were saying, Blake just reported that it was only about 1 passenger or less on average that's utilizing that stop on Park Street. And that is the only stop that I can think of, and maybe one other, if any, but on Park Street that is being served. So if we did change the route, it wouldn't have as much of an effect. But as they're saying, Elmwood and Park is the most important location because that's where people are trying to get access to. So that means that the bus will probably make a left on Elmwood, serve that stop, and continue on and go back up. Was it 26? And loop back around like all the other routes and come back at the top end of Lucius and River.
All right, so then help me with what this does to the folks in those apartments that you talk about that are this end of that route, and they're connecting to the stop on Elmwood that they're trying to get to. So are you describing another way for them to go other than that more direct down Park Street route?
That's the only route.
That's the only route that they can go to, unless,
I mean, if you were gonna redesign
If you
that to
eliminated the
say,
route, they didn't have to walk all the way down to the new stop we had.
To the Lucius and River stop.
yeah, they're gonna have to walk down to the new stop if we eliminate going around to go to Burleson Street because we got those apartments, like I said, the apartments right down here on the corner in the bend.
You know, where they
And
would
that's,
have
when
access.
we got a lot of people, we
Yeah.
have a
And
lot
there
of
are no
riders over there.
sidewalks.
And there's no sidewalks.
Yeah.
And you had to stop, practically got to stop almost in a curve
In
to
order
pick them up
them
and undrop them
Yeah.
off and then load
Exactly.
I think Jackie
Excuse
had a
Eric.
comment.
Yes.
Yes, let me make a suggestion for that. In order to eliminate the bus on Park Street, but still serve, the people at the apartments, Eric, once you check with the city to see if we can use, River Drive, if they say we could travel on River Drive with the big buses, then we can redesign that route to continue down Lucius to serve the apartment, go up and take the left on Northwood. Northwood will lead out to River Drive.
Right.
that will work.
So take Northwood out to River Drive, take a right on River Drive, and that'll take you down to Elmwood.
Yeah.
So that would still serve the apartment, but eliminate Park Street. That's if we could travel River Drive, though.
I will throw out there, I looked online and I confirmed River Drive is a DOT state-owned street. So that might help with that.
Yeah, but we need to check first because
Yeah.
we want to make sure.
Check it out.
And,
So
and,
Northwood's
and,
got some city-owned
who's,
now.
who's, I'm thinking about who you need to talk with because, Mr. Herbert, who represents that district?
What's the name?
And the city, I do.
I'm sorry,
I do.
you do?
Yeah.
Hot dog.
Well, Ms. Herbert, I guess if we need to coordinate in or anything like that, if I have difficulties trying to get in contact with someone, I'll be sure to loop you into the conversation.
Okay.
And Ms. Herbert, I want you to be, really feel comfortable with what the alternative is that we're talking about and who would be served by that, what it would take care of, so that you're not just saying, we're using our muscle to put big buses on the road that people told us in the past they didn't want them on.
Right, and it looks like we can use the data to support.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and, yeah. And so I just don't want us putting you on the spot without you having enough data to be comfortable with what we're talking to people about.
Well, look, let's put a point right there. This whole thing is in my district, so I'm feeling like this is all me.
I'm so glad you said
Don't think it's not this. This is all me.
That's for us to just show up on your doorstep and try to explain it to you.
We do appreciate your feedback.
Yes.
Don't they have neighborhood associations in those areas?
Yeah, we have met with them
Okay.
on the
You
front
meet
end of
with
the
them
project.
too?
Yeah, we're gonna meet with them.
Okay.
So I just want to bring everybody's attention. It's 11:08. We have roughly about an hour unless y'all want to go over. Just want
I think we can
Okay.
manage in an hour.
Yeah, we're almost done. I think we were speeding through. We were at 401.
Divine Street.
Yeah.
I want to hear about out by the food line, right? On Hardin Street,
Yes.
401.
401.
I like that food line.
I like you.
Yeah, 401, those 401.
All right, so Route 501, really quick, it looks similar to Route 101. Only difference is coming down 2 notch. But in this case, it will go to Common Central and go to Assembly, but it's because of how it's coming into downtown. So in Route 701, it is in the same style of situation where this time it would not necessarily go to Common Central, but it would go to Hardin and Taylor and go to Assembly and Blake. So it's a larger loop here. But it does give those folks coming from Forest Drive, that Forest Acres area, access to Allen Benedict, those colleges in that area. So
All right, so let me be sure I'm looking at this right now. I'm still on 501. Okay. But that looks like another one of those buses that gives people a connection from River Drive to, from Lucius, River Drive and Lucius to downtown.
That is correct.
So those folks that we've been talking about transferring there, this is another option.
Opportunity for them. So it's similar to the 101 situation, even if it stopped at Lucius and River, they still can catch the 501, which is a higher value route. You won't have much of a wait time to get downtown.
Okay, now am I looking at this right? Because you got one bus coming to the station across the street. Then they got to catch another bus to go downtown. Then they got to catch the 701 to go down Forest Drive. So they're gonna need two transfers.
They would need, I don't say that one more time. Which routes?
All right, so you're talking about 501.
Say like the 101 comes downtown.
Correct.
Okay, I mean, not downtown, it comes to the station here. Okay?
Lucius and River.
Yeah, they pick up the 12, they're gonna need a transfer to get on the 12. Then they're gonna need a transfer to get on the 701, because it's not going to.
Oh, because there's no direct connection in that
Yeah.
case. And that, yes, that will be the reality for people that's trying to
So
connect.
they got to pay two
They're gonna have
fares.
to pay two fares, or they're
Yeah.
gonna have to get a day pass, which is still gonna equal to a day, two fares.
All day pass.
Yeah,
And it's gonna take them, instead it's gonna take them one bus or two buses, it's gonna take them three buses to get where they gotta go.
Ooh, Jesus.
Now,
And you know how many old
That's to
people
get
gonna
from
do
where
it?
to where?
Where
One-
the buses
That's to
starting?
get from.
If you're coming from North Main 101 and you're trying to get to
Fort Jackson.
Fort Jackson,
yeah,
But you got your
You're gonna have to take
701.
three buses.
you have to take three buses.
Versus you're doing 101, you go downtown, you jump on the 701, which changes to 75.
Yeah.
That's only one bus route.
Yeah.
Well,
So basically, it's gonna
there's
take them
one
three.
transfer on the
Mhm.
originally and two
The way this is
transfers.
gonna be, it's gonna be three.
Yeah. You got to ride three buses to get to your
Gonna be tough.
destination.
Well, before you were riding two, because you had to make one transfer.
Yes.
This would be one additional transfer.
so this would be the unique situation of a double transfer in order to get to.
But if they utilize the all-day passes, they wouldn't have to wait.
So you get all day pass would be better.
The all-day pass would be
And that's
better.
what we need to explain to these people, because
Exactly.
everybody's not gonna
You
understand that.
can't explain nobody about no pass in the kitchen, three buses, man. Y'all have to be realistic. Person called two buses, you can't explain to them why they're catching it.
Exactly.
Third
Third
bus.
one, that's tougher.
Yeah, how you gonna come up with a pass?
Well, you know what, well, the only thing the
the
pass would do it was it wouldn't cost them more
in
in,
buy the pass.
Mhm.
it wouldn't cost them.
I mean, it's smarter for them to buy an all-day pass, it's cheaper and it's utilized, but a lot of our clients, a lot of our passengers, and we've all worked with for years, you can't get them to understand
They
that.
don't use.
No.
They don't understand it, and
No.
then,
you
and then
still
another
got to
thing,
look at-
they're used to doing transfers, they're used to transfer, paying one fare, buying a transfer, there's a lot of them that does want to use their day passes still. But when you go and say, hey, we're going from when you go catching one bus to three buses, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, customer service phone is gonna be lit up. It's gonna be calling left and right, y'all gonna have a lot of
There's gonna be
complaints.
some people
It's
that
gonna
just
be-
don't have
wanna
a
do
fare.
that.
And there's gonna be some that's not,
Who
doesn't
would
have
wanna
a fare.
get Three buses to get around Columbia when you almost could do it on one bus.
And just make it,
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
You gotta realize Columbia is one big circle,
Yeah.
Yeah,
bottom line.
yeah.
And
You
so,
have to be realistic.
and even to that
Going
point, so
south.
even with this being a unique situation, 101 could still go to Lucius and River, it can come downtown. The goal is to be able to see what the bigger picture looks like. How do we want to resolve those routes that, the issues of those routes not going to downtown? So, but
Well,
we will pencil that in as,
and I just say this too, I was gonna, it's in my notes for later, but I live on 801, okay? 801's going to stop at Lucius Road, which is great. Then, I have to get another bus to go to town. Okay. My, doctor's office is on Rosewood. That's the third bus. Now, I would have to leave home probably 2 to 3 hours ahead of time in order to make my appointment. Because, I'm gonna have to stay out here for a little while until another bus comes so that I can go downtown. And God help us if the 21 is on time, because our time's 21's late. So, what you gonna do? And I wanted to point this out to, there's a lady called me up last week And Ms. Gleaton, well, so she's probably familiar with the 11 as well. She was coming into town on the 11 to get to the 42 to get to her doctor. And now she's not gonna be able to do that. She's gonna need. She was very concerned to me that she wasn't gonna make her appointment on time. And she couldn't take Uber or Lyft or a taxi because they were too expensive. So, you know, in theory, I'm gonna make somebody real mad right now, but okay. In theory, this is a good idea, what you're presenting. In practicality, when you consider the people that are going to be involved in it, it's not so good.
And again, I think, you know, we stuck in the real dilemma of how do you give the most benefit to the most people? And so if we're trying to give the most benefit to the most people, we're gonna run into individual cases where that doesn't suit.
It's not just me.
And I'm not talking about just you, I'm just talking about there are always gonna be people who, I mean, and that's some of that's why we have art, why we have, you know, those.
What I was trying to get over in there, and if all the 3-digit buses, regardless of what super stop they go downtown, 50% of your problems already solved. I don't care where they're going, they can make that transfer at Commerce Central. If they all went, because each one of them come from a different neighborhood. So that neighborhood can go downtown. I think, and another thing we need to look at, for some reason, we went through and put stops 1,000 feet apart. We need to re-examine how many bus stops we have along routes. Got too many. That's another issue. But we need to put that in there.
Yeah, the service standard is for bus stops to be no less than 1,000 feet apart from one another. We do have unique cases where you got some heavy nodes, like on North Main, you might have some heavy nodes, depending on where you are. It's it's one-offs on different high corridors, corridor areas. But to your point, we can always take a look at that. To Ms. Mood, your point, and also your point, that is the hard thing. That's the reason why we're having this conversation. The issue is Commerce Central. We're trying to downsize it. You do have unique situations. It may not be a lot of passengers that's trying to go to Forest Drive. It may not be a lot of people that's trying to go to Rosewood, in your case. The question is, do we accommodate for the 5 or the few, you know, to make that adjustment? Do we bring those 3-digit routes and start to now populate Commerce Central again to kind of satisfy the masses? Technically, when we took on this project, it was never really clear what the right answer is in terms of the level of traffic at Commerce Central.
What level was acceptable?
What's the threshold? So the question is, what's the most optimal way to design the routes in order to receive the maximum amount of benefit?
That makes sense.
And in this case,
What happened, we had a great leader a little while back. Mr. Andor that brought all this crap in and destroyed the bus system that was 130 years old. And I'm getting bored trying to go back and resolve and spend my time with those issues. And everybody here act like they don't know what happened and what went on and we know we need to just make a good bus system and almost don't touch it again. See, this bus system and this consultant, now the consultant gone, and he left us with nothing because his pulse system don't work. But we spent months listening and looking at those charts and.
I think the post system is effective downtown. If we, again, to the intermodal facility, that's where it would be grand. We would have if you can imagine being able to get on one bus, get to one centralized location, being able to transfer, depending on the location, you'll be able to get access to other modes as well. So that would be one great centralized location. In this case, because of the issue with the, that we have with the city of Columbia, and Common Central, we just gotta figure out, you know, how do we resolve that?
And clearly, you know, this didn't come up out of
Right.
thin air. I mean, the whoever the leadership was called on to respond to an issue that was brought from the city.
That is correct.
And so even if the resolution it doesn't make people happy, I mean, and people see problems with it. It was I think an effort to make a response to the city saying, you got to do something about this. You got to do something about this.
Do
And
something
so-
about the post system.
Well, and
That's the only time we got a complaint from the city, when we put all those buses
I don't,
at one time.
No, well, I think it's been ongoing. The issue's been ongoing, but again, the post system, just to
made
make
it
it
more
plain.
visible.
Yeah, it made it does increase the traffic 100%, but in this case, the passengers benefit completely. It's almost, it's something to compare like this, but it's almost like heaven, you know, to a passenger. I can easily get to one place, transfer, and I can go on about my day. But in this case, you gotta transfer. It's less of that type of an experience with Lucius and River. So this is just a way to minimize the impact as a result of resolving the city of Columbia's problem.
But the note I made to myself in terms of our service committee discussion has to do with, you know, what is the goalpost? You know, is there a threshold that can be tolerated at Comet Central, or that we can't go over? Or, I mean, that's the question that we have to settle, because otherwise, you know, you go just back to sending everybody to Comet Central.
Correct. And
As the City of Columbia person, I will get some further information for you all.
That will be very helpful,
yeah,
Ms. Herbert.
that would be.
Thank you.
Very interestingly, because I may not have agreed with the prior council, so just to be honest. So, but I'll make sure that we have that discussion and I can get something back to you.
That insight would just be invaluable, I think, that to our discussion.
It would be.
Thank you.
And I think we have one other.
Yeah.
One
Hey,
quick
Mr. Westcott,
question.
what if you get all three number buses come downtown? 101, 301, 401, 501, 801, right? Those are our biggest problem, right? With all the people. If you get them come downtown, then get them other buses to come here to Lucius Road. You see what I'm saying?
And then let them utilize the 88, because the 88 will make connection with
Right.
every one of those
Yeah.
major routes, going all the way outbound and coming all the way inbound. And then that would cut off some of the issues, possibly.
Because you would still have direct connection.
Yeah, you
You'll
still
still
have
have
direct
direct,
connection.
because you know, 88 does, it comes straight, it connects with 83, 84, it connects with 801, Forest Drive, 701, 301, 101, all the whole system. And have all the major routes still go downtown, and all the secondary routes, have them all come up here to Lucius. And that they want to connect with the major routes, instead of having routes having to turn around and go downtown. Just have them jump onto 88, have the where 88 is going to be there when those routes going to pop up, and make sure you have that route 88 there, and they can stop, pick up, and make sure they make the connecting points all the way throughout the city, all the way across town.
And
And
another thing you gotta do, you gotta make sure that 88 gonna run on Sundays.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to put 88.
3 major routes are pretty much primarily.
And you have to put 80, but I mean, that
See what I'm
might
saying?
would cut
That might
out
cut
some
away.
of this other, trying to figure out how to work it out. Just have the secondary routes all like truck, well, because you know, you got the 88 straight across.
And try to get your 91 to go to the airports or something. Cause that's the furthest out we're going to West Columbia. And maybe if you get 91 and pray that you can get 96, oh man, we cooking with gas then.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, see, well, in this case, it goes deeper than me, whereas we're talking about funding, you know, but I get the vision.
All right, so Eric, would you and Blake kind of take what she just described and sort of give us a scenario at the service committee that says, what if?
Yeah.
What if we do this?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, that's just an idea. I mean, that would cut away with the argument about the 701, just have all the major routes still be downtown at Common Central. And all the other routes just meet at Lucius and River and let the 88 Crosstown bus do the heavy lifting. And make sure we have it where they will make their connecting points at Forest Drive, Garner's Ferry Road. We get, that way everybody will still get where they gotta go.
That's
And it
right.
would be only one, but it would be 2 buses instead of a bunch of transfers.
That's right. That made good sense.
Let me say something
All
out
right,
right
girl.
here,
I know you had it.
and I'll defer to you, Ms. Moon. It almost sounds like after we finish this meeting, we need a follow-up work session to kind of come back together and with this tweak.
I think the service committee meeting will be the follow-up
That would be,
session.
okay,
I think that'll be the follow-up.
I
okay.
mean, that's just,
Okay. That's all.
Real quick, so we can take a look at that as a scenario
Sure,
and
sure.
see how that works.
And I realize we haven't gotten to the other scenario. that-
Oh,
yeah,
right,
those
right.
are the
There's
ones-
still
I mean, we're
another-
just coming up with ideas. so-
Yeah.
Yeah.
701, I think we tackling this over. Is it a simple? Yep, 701, we've already discussed. 801, is similar to all the other routes. It goes directly to, Lucius and River. You can just tell by how the route is coming in, it's easier just to go, and terminate at Lucius and River than it is to go downtown. Now, the proposed implementation plan. So Leroy, myself, we had, and Jack, we had pretty extensive conversation about this, trying to figure out how do we want to roll this out and also minimize the impact. But we want to implement it in phases. And that kind of gets us to go ahead and start moving forward with occupying the space and not just letting it sit there idle. So phase 1 would be to implement low performing routes and routes that have limited impact on service implementation. So some of those routes that we saw today that, well, if it had none, then we won't have any changes at all. But then you have some routes that were low where you won't see as much of an impact at all. So it'll be easier just to go ahead and implement those. We can have a quick public meeting about those routes and let everyone know, hey, this is what's changing at this point in time. But then phase 2 will be the median routes. And just for the sake of presentation, phase 1 will be implemented in May. Phase 2 will be implemented in September, and phase 3 will be implemented at the top half of next year. And that's when we start talking about some of these higher ridership routes that may have a larger impact. But in between each phase, we will always have a public meeting. We normally do it for simple service changes. If it's been a while, we might do a Facebook Live just to kind of, keep the public up with what's going on and some of the things we're improving on. In this case, we will be speaking about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, which routes are changing, what will be the impact, and just getting feedback. So we need to make any of those subtle adjustments at that point in time, we can make those adjustments. Another thing, in between phase 1 and phase 2, is give us that breathing room to make adjustments to things that we don't feel like we got correct in phase 1. So we can make both adjustments all at the same time, and the same thing for phase 2 and phase 3 of the project. So we want to keep improving on it as we go, and that way we minimize, any issues. So we may be looking at for phase 1, maybe 5 routes. Nothing major, maybe it's 5 routes in phase 2 and maybe another 5 in phase 3, and we probably just picking up on anything that we didn't get correct in phase 2 and moving that over to additional changes in phase 3. But
And that way, the high performing routes that are creating the most discussion, we have the most time
to get it right and plan it out.
Get it right.
So everything that we're discussing today, it can, obviously we know normally it was always the high impact where we had the most discussion. So
let me ask you this, just in terms of the service committee's role in this, as we look at all of these things together and stay with it. But in our first action would be to look at what's affected in phase 1 to be what would we recommend to the board for the changes in phase 1 to go out for public comment. So we can do this in bite-sized pieces rather than
all at one time.
All at one time.
Right.
but also that we have that we know it's not like we're coming to you this week with this change and next week we're coming to you with that, it's
correct.
Instead of staged intervals. Okay.
Now, I was looking at your saying early March public meeting, that's just really to discuss, or your thought is, these low performing routes, it's more of a conversation around that.
Correct.
So the work still has to be done between the approval or public feedback in May. I don't know if we'll have enough time between that time period to sit and recut the routes timing, unless without knowing what exactly it is we're doing in a tight window, just.
Absolutely. So I'm on your side with that, and I thought about that when the timeline was developed.
Right.
So it would be more aggressive work on our end.
It's almost like we need to start now.
Correct. So we'll be looking for
Public
more,
meeting to give us time, just thinking out loud.
as a goal, just after this meeting, everyone has a clear understanding kind of what's going on. Next week in the service meeting, the goal is to go ahead and show you those, that phase one side of the project. It may be just pulling the slides and saying, hey, this is phase one. Once everyone kind of thumbs up and say, hey, yeah, we don't see any issues here, we would take that to the board, but we will already be scheduling or reserving spots for us to go to public meeting. So that's the way that we can be aggressive with our timeline. In the midst, we'll be working on scheduling and getting that stuff out to all of you, and then that way you can start building out all the run cuts and stuff like that.
Hey, Eric, this is Leroy.
Yes.
Just, and to the whole group, the phase plan that we just presented to you, I guess the main thing is that's not concrete. If we need to slide it, we can. I think the most important thing, I think everybody agrees, how do we get it right? And even if it's the phase one, the low performing, we need to start out on the right foot. And I know there's a lot of things that needs to happen, from the service committee, also to other politicians that have to talk to communities and things like that. But we want everybody to know the most important thing is, how do we start this off right? So we are flexible in that time frame. And I think the biggest thing here is we need to get back to where our service change are driven by the riders, the service committee, and then on to the board, and not to be led by staff. And I think that's the big objective here. And with all the great input that we've heard today, that shows us the importance of us working together to get to a plan that we can implement. So just want everybody to know, I think it's a good phase plan, but it is flexibility there where we feel that when we are going to implement this, it's the right timing and we've done our due diligence and everything. So, but just give you an idea of what we want to do.
Absolutely. I think to Leroy's point, so we had to move phase one to September, we can do so. But obviously we will be in favor of the idle time of not necessarily using the site. But again, what we will present will be some of the recommendations for phase one. So some of those lower tier issues. And again, if we find too many discrepancies, we can just move it along. We don't have to be as aggressive. But much of them, we probably won't have too many service adjustments, so it probably wouldn't affect the run cut as much as some of these other routes, or at least from a public perception standpoint. So, but to Leroy's point, again, the goal is to get it right. So we're not closed off to any recommendations that you may have inside of that, inside of the service committee meeting next week, or whatever may potentially come out of the board meeting. So just throwing it out there to the group. But the next thing is too, we wanted to explore opportunities to improve service frequencies to key destinations. And that was the ART. But it's not quite called the ART, it's called the Comment Loop. But ART is an abbreviation for arterial rapid transit. There's so many different types of rapid transit systems. You got long, light rail transit. You also have heavy rail transit. You have bus, call it BRT, bus rapid transit. In this case, we're going with ART, which is arterial rapid transit. The major things that are relevant to Columbia will probably be BRT and ART. In this case, bus rapid transit normally has infrastructure in place to support the bus. Maybe it's a dedicated bus lane, which we've kind of talked about today, but we don't have dedicated running way. It would be very costly for us to do so. Not to say that we can't be aspirational in our goals, but right now we just don't have the infrastructure in place. But in this case, with the arterial rapid transit, it will almost operate as an express route where you have limited stops and the goal is just to get you from point A to point B. And that's what we proposed at the last service committee meeting. And also I have a map of what that looks like today, just to kind of go over that again. But the next phase of that project, of this project will be public engagement, which we will have multiple periods for between each phase. And then we want to implement service along the way. But taking a look here at the comment loop, and I want to make sure I add a little context around this. I think this would be really, really great, not trying to edge this project or this route by any means, because it may not be a thing that it may be an interest of the committee or the board. But I do think this would definitely put the comment in a great status or a great standing in comparison to other larger transit agencies or agencies that are just as efficient as we are trying to be. We want to be innovative in our practice, and I think that this will keep us up to speed with what other people are doing to resolve much of their issues with connected to the key destinations. So right here on the left-hand side, you can see that it goes to Riverbank Zoo, Riverfront Park, Bull Street, the Bull Street District in Segra Park, and also Finley Park, and also 4 hotels. So we got major key destinations that will be addressed with this loop in itself. And it's about a 20-minute headway. It's 8 miles worth of travel, and it has 12 stops in this entire loop. So go for it.
Okay, question. So because it goes to Bull Street and it will potentially be a regular route, we can eliminate Soda Cap 3. Potentially.
Potentially. Because Soda Cap 3 still assists with people that are riding their bike downtown, maybe, or you parked at a certain location.
That's the one that goes to Segra Park. That's just on Firefly.
Yeah.
Not eastbound and westbound Soda Cap 3 that just runs during Firefly's games.
Right. Well, Soda Cap 3 still only operates.
Just only on Firefly.
Baseball season.
Yeah. So I would just say potential. It's kind of hard to say it aggressive.
Yeah, okay.
And the reason being is because there still is a little bit of a walk because right now it doesn't go directly to Bull Street. It still comes down Main. And so it would still have to connect through that corridor in order to get to Bull Street. It just gives you a shorter.
But that's what 3 does now anyway.
Well, 3 still goes to Bull Street.
Right, but it comes down Main.
But this one wouldn't turn on. In this case.
Art's only going down, what is that, Main to Elmwood?
Main to
If you want to do, eliminate 3 and do Bull Street, you could take 301. But like mentioned, there's a short walk to the Bull Street district.
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
So either way, it'll be a walk.
I'm just trying to.
No,
I'm just trying to look for efficiencies.
You got me thinking because I'm like, I can see.
But help me out, so what is 3 points?
3 points. So that's funny. So 3 points means you have a connection to 3 main roads.
Oh.
That's all it is.
Oh, I thought it was something. I
Like
missed.
like 5
I
points.
missed.
And it's similar to 5 points. 5 points has a direct connection to 5 major roads.
That loop seems like there would be an opportunity to partner with some businesses
Yes.
along that.
Yes.
To me, the way you have it structured, we ran something like this in Savannah.
Oh, yeah.
And
What's the name of the route?
well, it's our one route that ran
Yeah,
around. We extended it when I was there, but it just looks like that opportunity, just throwing it out there.
Yes, the dot show.
Yeah.
All right, so
It's around.
explain to me, give me a for instance. I mean, because I'm having trouble figuring out how this big loop is going to give people better access to places on an express route. So kind of tell me how that would work.
Great question. So this takes us to what the comment loop would do. The dashed line is where the comment loop is located. So for all of those routes that do not have direct access to downtown, the 101, the 301, the 801, you have route 6, 11, 84, 96L, all of those routes, they do not go into that downtown corridor. But this route here connects all of those routes. And again, it's at a 20-minute headway just with one single bus. But if we use 2 buses, obviously we're moving pretty quick. So we might be looking at anywhere between about 15 minutes potentially or more. But in this case, you connect all of those routes. You can see how it almost fits like a puzzle piece in the service area to kind of connect those passengers at a faster rate. So it almost works as a soda cap. But it's on the largest scale.
Confuse it.
Don't confuse it according to them, but you know.
But you see what I was saying, it may free up.
It
what
can
we
free
use
up.
for 3, because that will go, it will take you at least in the Bull Street suburb
To the
vicinity.
To the
It
Bull Street
definitely,
district.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bull Street District.
it takes you close nearby, and that definitely starts the conversation.
Yeah.
And so, just looking at the notes right there on the left-hand side, route extends from Sumter and Laurel by way of Assembly and Blandon and ending at Lucius and River. The frequency will be increased. So the short route with duplicative service and key destinations. So you will see other routes that kind of serve the downtown area as well, if you're looking at a huge map. And then the community impact is high, but it's more on the positive end in this case, where you will see improved access.
Eric, let me go back to that for just a second.
Yes, sir.
Right now, if a customer wants to go to the zoo, they take the 84, but they have to call within an hour ahead of time to say, I need to go to the zoo, and then they adjust the route accordingly. With the loop, it will go to the zoo automatically.
100%.
And
Yep. That will be the way to resolve that issue. So we've had much discussion around 84 and trying to figure out how we want to set it up. How do we want to put it in the system? How do we evaluate ridership? So many different ways that we can set up Route 84, but it's been confusing for some drivers and trying to figure out how to work it out. But in this case,
All right, so when we talked earlier on about your saying this might help us with those issues of the 3-digit routes connecting, how would that help?
this route in itself, this route, well, for one, it would help you with 84. So that's the short end. So 84 would no longer go to the zoo. The common loop would just be that direct connection. But in this case, it will, like it shows on the map, Route 101 would directly connect to Route 101 would directly connect to the loop, which would take you directly downtown. So it doesn't mitigate some of those issues if you're trying to go to Forest Acres or, you know, depending on the roadway. But again, it may only be a subset of passengers that may want to go to these destinations.
So in the early discussion, when we were saying, do they have to go to Comet Central or do they have to go to River and Lucius? This is a third option.
This is the third option.
This is saying you don't have to go to either one of those.
Yeah.
You can just change and
Just hop on the
get on
loop
the
and
loop.
You just, yep. So people on North Main can directly just get on the loop, depending on which end of North Main you're on.
So what that sort of demand for buses with this?
Absolutely. So in this case, we would use cutaway vehicles. Yep. So we wouldn't use, and that's why I wanted to make sure I pointed it out earlier. So it's the major buses that we're having issues with, the 35-foot, 40-foot. In this case, we might.
And because they come frequently enough, that would be a big enough bus.
Yeah, exactly.
And the frequency would be,
We literally may be looking at about a 20-minute headway, 15, somewhere around that ballpark.
depends on the traffic.
It depends on traffic.
So, Mr. Harris.
Yes,
I
sir.
think you did an excellent job. And we minimized the things we have to work on, like 6 and the frequency on 88. You know, that solve a lot of those problems. And what we have to remember, that these are 3 board members in here. And when I came on the board, that was the contractor's responsibility. So we have to remember, when we get this done, we give it and present it to Mr. Cooksey. And tell him to run with it and bring his changes back to the board. You know, we got in the weeds for the past 10 years and we never should have been in the weeds.
none of us signed up for a board position thinking we were going to be dealing with this level of detail out
That's
there.
right. See, so we just give him a good, super product in which staff and that we just don't have to go this route anymore.
Yeah, I think at this point, it should be the bulk of the last major project. The first project we had was in recent times was the, well, I guess we can almost date back to COVID. We had to adjust the service just based on ridership and demand. We moved to on-demand services. I'm just taking everyone out for summary as we move to open discussion, but we had to adjust the routes for demand and just trying to figure out what the new travel patterns would be. That's when we welcomed on the new contractor, and there was a lot to take on all at one time. And we were also trying to finalize what the service levels will be. Because by federal requirement, we can't call it a, what do you call it? You can't call it a modified service only for so long before you have to make a major adjustment and say, you know what, it's now permanent. So we went through that phase, and then from there, questions was asked, hey, when was the last time we looked at the timing of some of these routes? So that's when we looked at that and started trying to take a look at improving OTP. So that was a lot of route adjustments. And in the midst, we still had Reimagine the Comment. We had this project that we knew was coming down the pipeline with Lucius and River. But at this point in time, it should slow us down on how much adjustment that we need to make. We still want to continue to improve on-time performance. We're going to keep looking at how we can improve the quality of adjustments with this project. But it'll be simple service changes at a certain point. But the only thing I see coming down the pipeline, just to manage expectations, which is something I think we all know about, which is the intermodal facility. So if that works out well, then we may see another major change. But outside of that, this should help us to be steady, at least for some years to come.
And I would just want to say one other thing about the loop. Besides the, the zoo has been one of my projects for years. But I'm also very happy that it's also going to serve Prisma Baptist as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because on average, 400 people, Prisma employees, not just Baptist, but Richland and Park Regional, take the bus every day. When I was in the hospital 2 weeks ago, there was a lady who came in to mop up my room. There she was anyway. But I was talking with her and I was just asking her, I said, how do you get here? She said, bus. So it's good that the loop is going to be serving.
So I think unless there are some pressing questions, we can kind of wrap this up, but I want to be sure that we're clear on what we're trying to get accomplished at the service committee next week. And the agenda's set, but there's an agenda item on Lucius Road. And so we're covered in terms of the agenda, whatever we need to work on. But I think what we'll need to do is, they'll need the full committee will need a full, kind of a broad brush overview. I mean, you might want to start with that last slide with the phases, and because I think some of the things that we need to discuss there is what do we need to be recommending regarding phase one and the loop. Those what are we ready to make recommendations on those two things? If we are ready to do that.
I'm thinking that the things that we kind of had questions about, if those are resolved, we recommend the package. We don't go back to this again.
Well, I think if we take it in phases, that's what I was meaning, that slide would give us the overview of where we're headed. But in terms of what we have to specifically recommend to the board to go out for public comment, we'd only be dealing with phase one.
Phase one, right.
Yeah. So just making sure I hear you correctly, the plan is we will revisit the presentation, short in this case, just kind of giving a summary of what was discussed, and focus more so on the implementation. We will implement in phases and then highlight what is phase one of the project.
Right.
And then from there, if we get approval, because we will need a vote in order to move forward to make sure we're ready for the service change if we're going to proceed in May. And then from there, we can move forward and keep working at the other phases that we know we have larger issues with.
And so is it possible that we'd be ready to implement the loop as a part of phase one?
I would say no.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that until you look at those routes that we discussed earlier with those additional buses.
Yeah.
Be honest with you, we need those vehicles.
So, but now wait a minute, but the loop he's talking about only using cutaways.
Well, that's what I think for the overall, because I don't believe there are enough.
There's not enough
There's not enough cutaways to run two buses or
Not
just
right now.
one.
Right, I'm looking at two. I know you say one, but until we cut it and actually look at how it's gonna, how the pieces are gonna look, I'm just saying too.
So would you all look at that together so that when you come to the service committee, we can deal with that?
And that, and I want to add too, I would consider the loop to be at the higher end of an impact. So that might be the final phase of the project.
Okay.
Once all the routes are changed.
So not the
Now we-
upfront, but toward the end.
Towards the end,
It gives us time.
Okay.
Mr. Harris, my thinking is, go ahead, who had to, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask a question, because it's gonna pertain to Route 88, which we will probably discuss next week. I see on the thing that there's gonna be a super stop that comes. Two questions regarding that. One, where will it be in Colony Apartments? Will it be actually in the Colony Apartment itself? And two, because of the have to turn left into Colony Apartments and then come back out and turn left back on. But in view of, and we were talking about this earlier, in view of the nature of Colony Apartments right now, because there's a lot of issues regarding crime and maintenance and whether or not the management staff is going to say, you know, we're not going to do it anymore. And the city of Columbia suing them for a whole mess of money. Is it possible to kind of look at Colony again, maybe not do a super stop there?
Yeah, so we don't have any plans to add a super stop on Route 88 by any means.
But it's in.
It's listed as a super stop on this.
But those buses go there already.
Yeah,
right?
it already goes.
Goes down in there, make that circle and come back out.
It's already existing.
And you got, see what he's saying? You got 22 and 12 that goes down in there.
Right.
They try to-
88 just goes up.
Right, goes to 88
Or
to
just
straight
go to a
up.
belt line.
Yeah.
I don't
no
think
change.
So
88
what-
needs to go.
Yeah, no, he's trying.
You're trying to say you don't think it should go to the super stop as a whole.
But the packet has.
There's only 2 buses going down there.
It was a concern.
No, all you have to do is just eliminate the title super stop. You can't take the buses out.
Because then people stay all down in there.
Yeah.
Those apartments in the back.
But what we don't want to imply is that this will be a major area where people change buses for many routes, because that's what we said the super stop was, and that's what you're concerned about if we are increasing the volume of traffic there. And
Take the super stop from.
not.
Yeah, we're not increasing the traffic at that location. Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, my question is, so we don't sit through this presentation 2 and 3 more times. We came up with very few things that we disagreed on. Now, the next, at the service standards meeting, all we would want to hear is that 6, the service concern has been resolved. Park Street has been resolved, and we've done something with 88, created a frequency, because we agreed on everything else in the package. So there's no reason to get a service committee, not unless it's those that's not here. There's no reason to revisit this.
Well, I don't want us to go back through what all that we did in a work session. That's why we had the work session. But I do think we need to be clear on, and I'll work with you all to be sure that we cover all of those things that we said. We'll find out about this. We'll be ready to discuss this.
To your point, I think there are a few, there's still, I guess, some head scratching spaces where I can't say we 100% resolved it, but it's like a working discussion. So
Yeah, bring those back.
And so I think Route 6 will be one of those, the 3-digit routes will be another one, because these are all looking at different scenarios. And the comment loop will be another one. So what I'm going to do, it's hard to take a whole lot of notes and speak at the same time. I'm gonna look back at this recording, just go through the entire video and make sure I account for everything that was discussed.
See, that frequency on 88 is right. It's a lot of publicity. So the neighborhoods need to go out. Students can take a class in the morning and a class at night with a bus running every 30 minutes. So that's a game changer.
So, and I would say too that even those things If they don't impact the phase one, you know, we can keep working to resolve some of those, even if we don't have all the answers we want. Our priority would be to cover anything that we need to change in order to implement phase one. And then and anything else that we can address at this meeting would be great, but that would be gravy.
A good thing to resolve, like the resolution you're doing for 6 down Park Street. If you develop something to take care of any bus, so you don't have to revisit that. Because moving from Park to River Drive may not happen. That's the same area.
Right, absolutely. Yep.
See, so you may not be resolving it.
It can be the new
New-
route. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Accounted for. Yep. And
Okay.
again, Ms. Herbert, if I run into any issues, you know, I'll definitely let you know. And if you can receive any feedback from city council, that'll be really helpful to add to the conversation next week. If any at all.
Sounds good.
Okay, any other comments or questions or discussion? Well, I just want to express my appreciation to everybody in this room and those of you online who invested your time with us today, because it was, you know, we can all see that it works better when we don't have to say, well, let me go check with somebody and let me go see it. To have you hearing and contributing right here in the room with us has been really wonderful, and I thank you for that. And thank you, Eric.
Thank you, and I appreciate everyone's feedback.